Chapter 176. Family goes to Yongfu village. Qin Wenjing quickly finished writing the letter and got someone to send the jar of white sugar to the capital. After that, he returned and chatted with Gu Yundong for a long time. Madame Gu instructed the servants to prepare lunch and let Gu Yundong eat at the Qin residence before leaving. As soon as she left, Madame Gu asked Qin Wenjing worriedly, "Will this matter work?" Qin Wenjing looked at the distant carriage and reached out to hold Madame Gu's hand. He said in a low voice, "The emperor is a monarch who cherishes talent." Madame Gu understood that it was most likely possible. If that's the case, Miss Gu can privately manufacture and sell white sugar? That will attract a lot of attention. It won't be difficult for the people in the capital to find out. Speaking of which, even if Lady Gu gave the entire formula to the imperial court and did not care about it, those who wanted to find out would still be able to find out that she was the inventor. Don't worry. I've been in Fengkai County for a few years. Now that the county magistrate is under the Dai Prefecture magistrate, those people will have to ask for my permission if they want to interfere. Qin Wenjing smiled. I'm afraid I'll be busy from now on. My wife, please bear with me. You're going to be busy. Didn't you just promise Miss Gu to accept her brother as a student? There's no hurry. At the very least, we have to wait for news from the capital before we have the mood. Qin Wensheng's judgment was correct. 5 days later, a letter came from the capital and was sent to the Qin residence overnight. It was a thick letter, which showed how important it was and how much the emperor valued it. Qin Wenjing opened the letter and smiled. The next morning, he brought Madame Gu and his daughter, Qin Anning, to Yongfu village. When the carriage entered Yongfu village, the villagers were no longer as curious as Gu Yundong's first visit. After all, ever since the Gu family bought a carriage and the Lu family's young master often came over, the carriage was no longer rare. However, there were still children following behind the carriage. This was the first time Qin Anning had come to such a place. Seeing that the children were different from the children from her school, she was slightly excited and wanted to get out of the carriage, but she was stopped by Madame Gu. This young lady was not a quiet person. If she really wanted to play with children of the same age, she would definitely go crazy. Her mother would not be able to pull her back. Qin Wenjing lifted the curtain and asked the child outside, "May I ask how to get to Gu Yundong's house?" At first, he was afraid that these children did not know. After all, he did not know Gu Yundong's father's name. Unexpectedly, the children nodded in unison. The Gu family? Other families might be unknown, but who did not know the Gu family? The most imposing green brick-tiled house was her house. It was very impressive. One of the children immediately shouted in a certain direction, "Yunshu, Yunshu, someone is looking for your family. Is it a relative of yours?" The child was a little envious. Yunshu's family was rich, and so were her relatives. Looking at the big carriage, they were even richer than her family. Qin Wenjing followed the child's gaze and saw a child standing far away, wiping a little girl's hands with a handkerchief. Perhaps because he did not hear the child's cry, Gu Yunshu did not turn around. The child wanted to call out again, but Qin Wenjing waved his hand, got off the carriage, and walked over. Yunshu? Wasn't this the name of the younger brother that Gu Yundong had mentioned before? Qin Wenjing slowly walked behind him and heard the young and patient little voice. Chapter 177. Heart of Love for Talents. Let's see if you still dare to run so fast. Fortunately, your clothes are thick and you didn't fall too hard. If you fall and hurt yourself, won't you cry? Don't run next time, understand? If you want to find me, just call me loudly. Will I not wait for you? Gu Yunshu carefully wiped her palm with a handkerchief. She had probably hit a small stone and it was a little red. Fortunately, her skin was not broken. The little girl's eyes were red, but she shook her head hard. I'm not running anymore. Give me 2 puffs. As she spoke, she stretched out her small hand. Gu Yunshu seriously blew on it twice. Then, the little girl smiled in satisfaction. All right, it doesn't hurt anymore. Let's go home and change your clothes. Gu Yunshu held her small hand. Unexpectedly, just as he turned around, he saw Qin Wenjing standing behind him. Gu Yunshu blinked. What can I do for you? Qin Wenjing quietly listened to the siblings' conversation, and his impression of this child improved a lot. Such a young child usually ran out to play with his friends. It was really rare for him to take care of his younger sister so carefully without any impatience. Moreover, this child was good-looking and polite. He heard from Gu Yundong that he had studied and knew how to read. It seemed that he had not studied for nothing. "I'm looking for your eldest sister, Gu Yundong. I'm from the county. My surname is Qin." Qin Wenjing thought that since Gu Yundong was looking for a teacher for her younger brother, she had at least told him about the teacher. If he introduced himself like this, Gu Yunshu should know who he was. Unexpectedly, he only nodded and asked, "Do you know my eldest sister? Why are you looking for her?" Qin Wenjing was speechless. The Gu girl had actually never mentioned him to her brother? Qin Wenjing coughed lightly and calmed himself down before saying, "A few days ago, Miss Gu went to the county city and helped my wife. Today, I specially brought my wife and daughter to visit." Gu Yunshu was happy to hear that. "My elder sister is very good. She's kind, beautiful, and capable. When she sees that your wife is in trouble, she will definitely help her." Gu Yunka nodded. "She's also smart." Qin Wenjing looked up at the sky and recalled Gu Yundong praising her younger brother with a bunch of idioms that day. It seemed that this was inherited from the family. Siblings did not even have to be humble when praising each other. Gu Yunshu's attitude towards Qin Wenjing immediately improved. "Then I'll bring you there. Follow me." With that, he held Gu Yung's hand and walked forward. They were only at the village entrance now. Their house was at the foot of the mountain, and it was still a little far away. Qin Wenjing wanted the two of them to get into the carriage. Unexpectedly, Gu Yunshu shook his head firmly. "Well, just walk." Eldest sister had said that they could not get into a stranger's carriage. What if they were kidnapped? He and his sister were both very beautiful, cute, and eye-catching. When Qin Wenjing heard this, he did not get into the carriage. He let the servant drive behind him while he accompanied the two little fellows. As they walked, they chatted. The more they talked, the more Qin Wenjing liked the siblings. He realized that Gu Yunshu was very smart and talented in studying. In addition, he had a good character. Qin Wenjing developed a love for talent and wanted to nurture him well. They soon arrived at the foot of the mountain. Although the Gu family had not moved to their new home, Gu Yundong was usually here during the day. Hence, Gu Yunshu brought them to the entrance of the new house and shouted, eldest sister, a Mr. and Mrs. Qin from the county city are here to look for you." Qin Wenjing, on the other hand, stood where he was, staring at the green brick-tiled house in front of him with slightly widened eyes. Chapter 178. This is a scam. The Gu house was actually so big and imposing? Qin Wenjing could not link the green brick house in front of him to the Gu family. Didn't they say that Gu Yundong's family had fled from elsewhere? Didn't they say that her father had still gone missing? Moreover, when Gu Yundong had chatted with him previously, she had clearly acted as if she was very short of money and needed white sugar business. This was a scam, a scam. Her house was even better than his. Looking at the stone road at the door, the neat flower beds around, and the brand new bricks, it was even more luxurious than the landlord's house. When Gu Yundong came out, she saw Madame Gu carrying her daughter down from the carriage. She quickly stepped forward with a smile. "Mrs. Qin, you're here. Come in and sit." Madame Gu greeted her and led her daughter into the house. However, after taking a few steps, she realized that Qin Wenjing was still standing at the same spot. She could not help but turn around to look. At this moment, Qin Wenjing looked at Gu Yundong angrily and sneered. "Miss Gu's house is really unexpected." When Madame Gu heard this, she looked over and her eyes lit up. Of course, she had seen green brick houses before. She had even seen more exquisite carvings. However, the house in front of her gave off a very different feeling. It was a little different, but it gave people a warm and comfortable feeling. Gu Yundong instantly understood that Qin Wenjing was angry out of humiliation. Seeing how sarcastic he was, she immediately sighed. "That's not right. This house of mine has cost me all my savings. Now that I'm penniless, I can't even gather enough money to send my brother to school, so I have to work hard to earn money." Gu Yunshu hurriedly said, "I'm not going to school. You don't have to work too hard. You'll be tired. No. Qin Wenjing was the first to object. She then turned to look at Gu Yundong, who shrugged. Let's talk inside. The group of people entered the house and Gu Yundong poured them some sugar water. It was made with white sugar. Compared to brown sugar, it was as if nothing was added. The water was still transparent and clear. It looked very refreshing, but it tasted sweet in his mouth. Madame Gu let out a comfortable breath and looked at her daughter. She saw that she had already gulped it all down and handed the empty cup to Qin Wenjing for him to pour another cup. Previously, Qin Wenjing had sent all the white sugar to the capital. He did not leave any for himself, so seriously speaking, this was the first time he had drunk such sugar water. He could not help but nod to himself. It was indeed not bad. After drinking the sugar water, Qin Wenjing saw the siblings standing quietly beside Gu Yundong, as if they wanted to embolden her. He could not help but smile. Yunshu, we have something to say to your elder sister. Can you take our Ninger out for a walk? Qin Anning listened eagerly and excitedly. Her mother had said that she had to be reserved, quiet, and polite when she was a guest at someone else's house, so she had been restraining herself from being too perky, even though she had wanted to talk to Yunshu and Yunke for a long time. Gu Yunshu looked up at his eldest sister, who nodded. He came over and said to Qin Anning, let's go. You have to follow us closely. Otherwise, you'll be taken away by the tiger on the mountain. Qin Anning immediately became agitated. Are there tigers on the mountain? Have you seen them before? Can you take me there? My family had 2 roe deers last time, but they were already dead. Cough cough. Madame Gu could not help but hold her forehead. Chapter 179. Let me do it. After the 3 children left, Qin Wenjing said, there's a reply from the capital. The emperor has agreed to your conditions. Moreover, the emperor has also instructed that Lady Gu can create and sell as much as she wants. No one will come looking for trouble with you. Of course, the people here referred to those high-ranking officials and nobles who wanted a share on the surface, including people like the Tao family in the county. However, Gu Yundong still had to pay attention to those despicable people. Qin Wenjing would try his best to help. This couldn't be helped. Since he wanted to do business, he couldn't avoid these troublesome things. Not to mention Gu Yundong, even if it was someone like the Lu family, there would also be someone secretly causing trouble. They would even plant spies to disrupt the family's business. Gu Yundong knew that he was bringing her good news. She immediately nodded. Then I'm relieved. Since it's confirmed, do you want to see the process of making sugar? Of course. Qin Wenjing was a little excited. He had been looking forward to it for a long time. Gu Yundong brought them to the backyard. The place where sugar was made was in the backyard. Shao Qingyuan was tidying up the sugarcane. When he saw them coming, he washed his hands and walked over. Qin Wenjing sized him up. Who was this person? What was his relationship with Gu Yundong? He looked tall and mighty, and his eyes were very cold. Just looking at him made people perk up for no reason. Shao Qingyuan had never seen Qin Wenjing before. When he accompanied Lu Wei to school, he only followed the butler to help bring the roe deers to the kitchen and then went out. However, he knew about Qin Wenjing. When Gu Yundong returned that day, she did not hide the conversation between him and Qin Wenjing. Gu Yundong introduced, this is Shao Qingyuan. He's my sugar business partner. Partner? Gu Yundong nodded. That's right. Didn't I tell you? In order to build this house, I spent all my money. Look, I can only find someone to partner with. I'm really poor. Qin Wenjing, I don't believe you. He stopped dwelling on this matter. After nodding at Shao Qingyuan, he looked at the things in the courtyard. Because it had not been refined in large quantities, there were only 2 sets of tools, and they were a little simple. Qin Wenjing went forward and touched it. Indeed, he felt a little white sugar and brown sugar. His hand was sticky, but it made him very excited. Quickly refine it for me to see. Qin Wenjing looked a little impatient. Gu Yundong went to take the apron, but just as she was about to put it on, she was stopped by Shao Qingyuan. He took the apron from Gu Yundong's hands. I'll do it. I'm very familiar with it anyway. Watch from the side and explain it to Master Qin. Gu Yundong thought about it and nodded. All right. Qin Wenjing raised his eyebrows slightly and did not say anything. Shao Qingyuan quickly took the cane juice that he had squeezed previously and placed it in the vat to boil. When it turned into yellowish black syrup, he poured it into the bucket and condensed it into black sugar. Then, he placed a tile funnel on a vat and plugged the funnel with straw. He poured the black sugar into the funnel and waited for the black sugar to form a block before removing the straw. Then he poured the black sugar in the funnel with yellow mud water. The black slag flowed from the funnel into the vat below. The black sugar in the funnel turned into white frost. The top layer was about 5 inches and was very white. Qin Wenjing did not speak from the beginning to the end. He watched everything as Shao Qingyuan refined the white sugar bit by bit, as if she was casting a spell. The originally black and red sugar actually became so fair after this process. His expression became more and more excited. Chapter 180. Yunshu's teacher Shao Qingyuan only stopped after doing all this. Beside him, Qin Wenzheng's breathing could not help but slow down. That's great. He immediately wanted to try it himself. Seeing that it was getting late, Gu Yundong quickly stopped him. Master Qin, have lunch first before you try. Otherwise, everyone will go hungry if you keep working. Qin Wenjing suddenly came back to his senses and left the backyard reluctantly. Lunch was still at the Zheng family's house. Although the furniture in the new house had been moved in, the house still needed to be exposed to the sun for a few days before it could be lived in. While eating, Qin Wenjing suddenly remembered that he had to take in a disciple. He took the opportunity to ask Yunshu if he wanted to go to school. Unexpectedly, the little guy shook his head. My family is poor. If you don't charge tuition fees, independent Illinois go. After spending an entire morning with Qin Anning, he finally knew Qin Wenzheng's identity. Qin Wenjing almost choked on his own saliva. You're quite reluctant. Unexpectedly, Gu Yunka nodded as well. Our family is poor. Too poor. The others present lowered their heads silently. Perhaps everyone had a different understanding of poverty? Qin Anning tilted her head and glanced at the candy in her hand. Could a child from a poor family casually take out such a good-looking orange-flavored candy to her friend? If she didn't have it, wouldn't her family be even poorer? Qin Wenjing could only look at Gu Yundong. The latter felt that Yunshu still had to respect the teacher. Besides, Qin Wenjing had helped her a lot. It was not good to disrespect him too much. Otherwise, what if he flew into a rage out of humiliation? Hence, Gu Yundong wiped her mouth and said solemnly, Yunshu, meet your teacher. Gu Yunshu, who had been struggling just now, put down his chopsticks without another word. He walked to Qin Wenjing and knelt down with a thud. Then he kowtowed 3 times. Greetings, sir. Qin Wenjing was speechless. This child's movements were so fast that he did not even have time to react. The others present stopped what they were doing and looked over in a daze. The Zheng family widened their eyes. This was a teacher of the school? The teacher of the school had personally come to the Gu family to take Gu Yunshu in as a student. How smart was he? Zheng Jia and Zheng Yu looked at Gu Yunshu enviously. It was great that Yunshu could go to school. They had actually learned some words from Gu Yunshu over the past few days. They were already very satisfied. Qin Wenjing laughed and reached out to help Gu Yunshu up. He patted his shoulder. Good. You're a smart child. How about this? I still have something to do these few days. You can report to school in 3 days. Yes. Yunshu nodded vigorously and turned to look at her elder sister. His little face was red. Gu Yundong knew that even though he had always said that his family was poor and he did not need to go to school, he still yearned for it. From now on, study well with Master Qin. Master Qin is knowledgeable. You won't lose out if you follow him. Qin Wenjing glanced at her. Why did these words sound so awkward? Was it because he was knowledgeable that he would not suffer a loss? Or was it because he had a strong backing? Gu Yundong pretended not to notice his gaze. She pulled Gu Yunshu back and asked everyone to continue eating. Unexpectedly, as soon as she turned around, she saw Madame Yang's eyes wide open in shock as tears slowly fell. Gu Yundong was shocked and hurried to her side. Mother, what's wrong? Chapter 181. Madame Yang cries. For some reason, Madame Yang could not help but cry when she saw Gu Yunshu had a teacher. She looked at Gu Yundong blankly. After thinking for a while, she said, "Your father will be happy." Gu Yundong was stunned. She slowly sat down beside Madame Yang and wiped her tears with a handkerchief. She said softly, "Yes, if father sees that Yunshu can study and has such a powerful teacher, he will definitely be very happy." Madame Yang nodded heavily. "Let's find your father." "Okay." Gu Yundong did not forget to look for Gu Dajiang, but she had to have money first. She had to settle down at home so that she could have no worries. In ancient times, where there were no communication tools, it took a lot of manpower and time to find someone. Seeing this, Qin Wenjing couldn't help but ask, "Where did you and your father get separated? If you need help, just tell me." Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Yes, Mr. Qin had a lot of connections. She told him the location of Gu Dajiang's disappearance. Finally, she told him, "We agreed with father that if anyone got separated, we would meet in Qingyuan Prefecture." However, when we arrived at Qingyuan Prefecture, the city was in chaos. We had no choice but to come to Xuanhe Prefecture. "Master Qin, can you help us ask around in Qingyuan Prefecture?" Qin Wenjing thought for a moment before saying, "After the chaos in Qingyuan Prefecture, the officials have all changed. The entire prefectural city is undergoing a major renovation. I'm afraid it won't be easy to find your father. However, he'll help." "Miss Gu, don't worry. Your father will definitely be safe." Gu Yundong thanked her with a smile. Madame Yang finally calmed down. Then she ate happily, as if her previous crying did not exist. Gu Yundong shook her head and laughed. After dinner, Qin Wenjing couldn't wait to try refining the white sugar. It was just a little clumsy. As expected, it was unsuitable for people who studied. His handicraft ability was not good. However, he was very serious and recorded the process one by one. After 2 tries, he finally wiped the sweat off his forehead and brought Madame Gu and Qin Anning back to the county. After he left, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan began to discuss mass-producing white sugar. It was impossible to rely on just the 2 of them. They had to hire people and find another venue. Gu Yundong could not bear to use her newly built house as a workshop. She also wanted to buy sugarcane and make a few more sets of tools. Shao Qingyuan was silent for a moment before suddenly saying, "Let's buy some people." Gu Yundong was stunned. "Buy someone? Well, you don't have to buy too many. 2 or 3 will do. White sugar is extracted from black sugar. It's not a secret to make black sugar. A lot of people know how to make it. We just have to do the last step." Gu Yundong hesitated for a moment and nodded. "All right, then we'll buy some workers. We'll go tomorrow." The next morning, Gu Yundong went to the county city. Shao Qingyuan followed him. Unexpectedly, as soon as the 2 of them arrived at the city gate, they saw Lu Wei's servant, Luan was driving the carriage out of the city. When he saw Shao Qingyuan, he immediately became happy. "I was just about to go to Yongfu village to look for you and Miss Gu." Hearing her name, Gu Yundong poked her head out of the carriage. Luan was even happier. "So Miss Gu is here too. Great, I don't have to make another trip." "Why are you looking for us?" "Miss Gu, how could you forget? Today is the agreed deadline between our young master and the Tao family's young master. It's in the afternoon. The young master specially asked me to invite the 2 of you to watch the show early in the morning." Chapter 182. Buying workers. Gu Yundong calculated the time. "It was really today. In the afternoon?" Luan replied, "Yes, early in the morning at Jinshu restaurant in the city." The Lu family was mainly in the business of restaurants. Jinshu restaurant was the largest restaurant in Fengkai County. Of course, the Lu family also had various shops under their name. They sold snacks, pastries, and even groceries. "All right, I understand. We still have something to do now. We'll go over at noon. Tell your young master to keep a seat for us." Luan hurriedly asked, "Miss Gu, what's the matter? Do you need my help?" Gu Yundong thought about it. Luan was more familiar with the county. She could save some effort by asking him. She asked, Do you know which broker shop in the county has a fair price? Is the broker's reputation good? Luan was stunned. Miss, you want to buy servants? That's right. Miss, you've asked the right person. The Lu family has interacted with a few brokers in the city. The most fair one is the official broker Hulu Alley in the city. There's a Granny Chow among them, and the people she trains are not bad. She has a conscience. She tells the identity and background of the servants clearly. She won't hide it from you. As for the price, it's a little more expensive than those private brokers, but it's worth it. Gu Yundong knew what to do. Oh, thank you. I'll go to the brokerage first and come to the restaurant later. Then he'll go and reply to young master. Miss, take your time. If you need anything, feel free to come to the restaurant and look for my young master. Luan drove the carriage away. Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan discussed for a while and went straight to Hulu Alley. If there were no suitable ones over there, it would not be too late to take a look at the others. Hulu Alley was very lively. Although it was called an alley, the road was very wide. Their carriage could directly rush to the entrance of the brokerage. When Gu Yundong came down, she immediately said that she was looking for Granny Chow. The people inside knew that this was most likely introduced by an acquaintance, and they immediately went to look for her. Granny Chow was in her 40s. When she came out, she did not waste any time. She brought Gu Yundong to the backyard. Then, she called everyone out and let Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan take a look first. Gu Yundong's main purpose in buying people was to help refine the white sugar. Furthermore, she would sign a death contract. After looking around, her gaze finally landed on a family with the surname Tong. According to Granny Chow, this family of 6 used to be servants of a large family in the county city. That family had moved away some time ago and could not bring many servants with them, so they sold a portion of them. The Tong family was among them. It was said that in the previous master's house, the Tong family was also diligent in their work. However, they did not know how to suck up to their master and could not get close to the master's house, so in the end, they were not taken away. The Tong family had an old man and a mother. They were both 46 years old this year. The couple had 2 sons. The eldest son was 30 years old and had married a woman. He had a 14-year-old daughter. What surprised Gu Yundong was that this daughter was very strong, even though she ate a lot. The younger son was 25 years old. It was said that he had a wife before, but that wife found him boring. In the end, she climbed into the bed of the young master of the family and became his concubine. Upon hearing this, Gu Yundong roughly knew why this family had been sold by the previous owner. This concubine must have put in a lot of effort. Gu Yundong asked them a few questions. For the time being, she did not feel that there was anything bad about them, so she bought them. Because they were all strong laborers and were healthy, the 6 of them had cost 70 taels of silver on Gu Yundong, and that was because Granny Chow had given a discount. Chapter 183. Young Master Lu. Don't give up. Gu Yundong paid the money and instantly felt that she was poor again. She really could not afford to spend this money. She had to earn more quickly. Shao Qingyuan saw that she was frowning as soon as she left the brokerage shop. He thought for a moment and asked, "Is there no more silver? They'll go up the mountain tomorrow to see if there are any tigers." There was also the roe deer. Last time, she said that she had never eaten a roe deer. It was just that he had been busy recently and could not find the time to go up the mountain. Gu Yundong immediately shook her head. You have to go deep into the mountains to fight the tigers. It's so cold now. You'll freeze if you stay in the mountains for 2 days. Besides, it's not that easy to fight the tigers. Do you think you can encounter them so easily? It's better not to go. It's too dangerous. Shao Qingyuan smiled. Okay, I won't go. The 2 of them got into the carriage. The Tong family was still at the brokerage shop. Gu Yundong asked them to pack their things first. She would pick them up in the afternoon when they returned from Jinshu restaurant. Jinshu restaurant was still some distance away. When Gu Yundong and the others arrived, the entire restaurant was surrounded with carriages. According to the waiter, the stable in the restaurant could not accommodate all the horses at all. They could only block the road. There were too many people. Previously, Gu Yundong had only heard that this bet had blown up quite a bit. Now, it seemed that it had blown up too much. How much did Lu Wei hate Tao Xing that he wanted the entire county to see him being humiliated? No wonder even Qin Wenjing had made a move to persuade her to stop this bet. The waiter had received Lu Wei's instructions and brought Gu Yundong and the rest to the best private room on the second floor. After knocking on the door, a weak voice came from inside. "Come in." Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan looked at each other. What was going on? The two of them pushed open the door and entered. Unexpectedly, as soon as she entered, she saw Lu Wei hanging his head low and looking dejected. Even his hair was messy, and his clothes were messy too. He looked like he was in pain. "What happened to you?" Gu Yundong asked softly. Did something happen to the bet? Should she comfort him? When Lu Wei heard her voice, he suddenly raised his head. His movements were so fierce that he almost twisted his neck. In the next moment, the dejected look on his face disappeared and he exhaled. "So it's you guys." He wiped his hair and crossed his legs. He looked like an arrogant profligate son, completely different from his previous image. "Who did you think we were, then?" "I thought that Tao Xing and the others were here to laugh at me in advance, so I deliberately pretended to be defeated and had nothing to live for to make them happy. That way, the happier they are now, the worse they will fall later." Ha! This person's bad taste was quite strong. Gu Yundong sat at the table and poured himself and Shao Qingyuan a cup of tea. She reached out to open the window. Lu Wei immediately stopped her. No. There are so many people downstairs. If everyone sees how confident I am later, it will be boring." Gu Yundong could only retract her hand and ask him, "Is there anything delicious in your restaurant? I'm hungry. Let's eat first. There are still more than 2 hours left." "Yes, I'll get someone to serve the dishes immediately." As he spoke, he opened the door of the private room with messy hair and shouted to the waiter outside, "Serve me the signature dishes of the restaurant. Hurry up." 2 young masters happened to pass by outside the door. When they heard this, they immediately smiled. "Young Master Lu, you clearly know that you're going to lose, so you're starting to give up on yourself? There's no need to waste the food, right?" Chapter 184. Old Master Lu is here. Another person also smiled and said, "That's right. You don't care about your image at all. After all, you're a handsome man in Fengkai County. How can you go crazy just because of 5 shops?" The only response they got was the sound of Lu Wei slamming the door. The 2 young masters looked at each other and sneered. He's angry from embarrassment. How pitiful! After this, Lu Wei will probably be completely abandoned by the Lu family. Won't there be one less person at our gathering in the future? Haha, isn't there still Tao Xing? He won a few shops this time. Wouldn't he be more generous and invite everyone out to celebrate? The 2 of them were getting further and further away. Lu Wei leaned behind the door and listened for a long time with his butt raised. In the end, he snorted and said proudly, "You'll see how your eyeballs pop out later. You only know how to make sarcastic remarks. When I win, I won't treat you. Just feel sorry for yourselves." Gu Yundong was speechless. "Shao Qingyan, have some tea." Lu Wei happily returned to his seat and drank the white sugar water. The taste was extremely beautiful. Gu Yundong felt that his appearance was too eye-piercing. She did not know if she could eat later. She regretted not eating outside in advance. The waiters quickly served the food and reported the situation outside. There were more and more people now, and Tao Xing had arrived early. He was in another private room. Those young masters had already occupied the private rooms. The hall downstairs was also filled with people. Even outside the door, there were many commoners watching the commotion. This matter had blown up too much. Previously, it was just circulating among young masters like the Tao family and the Lu family. Later, after the stake was increased, even the commoners knew. Gu Yundong really admired these 2 people. They could cause such a ruckus in a bet. They were really capable. As they were eating, Lu Wen suddenly rushed in. "Young master, old master is here." Lu Wei was stunned and stood up abruptly. "My father is here? It's over, it's over, it's over." Gu Yundong swallowed the chicken in her mouth and looked up. She asked curiously, "You haven't told your father?" She had said not to tell anyone for the time being, but it was already the agreed date. He still hadn't told his father? Lu Wei's body stiffened. He laughed dryly and stammered, "You can't blame me. I was too excited and forgot. Of course, I wanted to tell my father this morning, but he went out early in the morning. I didn't see him." Gu Yundong was speechless. At this moment, the door of the private room was opened. Old Master Lu walked in angrily. Lu Wei suddenly jumped up and instantly retreated behind Shao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong put down her chopsticks and wiped her mouth. She greeted, "Old Master Lu." Old Master Lu glared fiercely at Lu Wei before looking at Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan. A moment later, his expression changed and he smiled. "You're Miss Gu, right?" Gu Yundong blinked. Old Master Lu looked quite happy. She thought that he would be angry that she had harmed his son. She did not expect him to smile. She nodded. Old Master Lu walked over and sighed. "Miss Gu is so capable at such a young age. You're not inferior to men." Gu Yundong was stunned again. "Does Old Master Lu know?" "Yes, I just came from Master Qin's place." Lu Wei immediately exploded when he heard that. "Father, since you know, why did you look like you wanted to kill me just now? If I don't put on an act, will the people outside believe that you're going to destroy my family assets?" Chapter 185. The older the wiser, the three juniors in the private room instantly felt deep veneration. Indeed, the older the ginger, the spicier it was. Gu Yundong finally knew who Lu Wei had inherited his personality from. It seemed that Lu Yi would have a hard time in the future. Not only did he have to take care of his elder brother, but he also had to take care of his father. Old Master Lu snorted proudly and walked to Lu Wei's original seat. He sat down and said to him, "Where's the white sugar? I haven't seen it before. Show it to me." Lu Wei eagerly took the white sugar out of the cloth bag in the round vat in a large wooden basket in the corner. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. "You hid it too well." Lu Wei scooped a little with a small bowl and placed it in front of Old Master Lu. Old Master Lu immediately beamed with joy when he saw this. He twisted a little and put it in his mouth before nodding repeatedly. "Sweet, sweet, good, good." He turned to look at Gu Yundong with a smile, but quickly shook his head regretfully. "Actually, it's not a bad idea to cooperate with the Lu family. You're Wire's friend, so Uncle Lu won't take advantage of you." As he spoke, he glared at his son resentfully. How useless! They were clearly friends, and he knew her ability immediately. He did not know how to win over such a talent. What was the use of giving birth to such a son? Gu Yundong could only say, "Of course I trust you, Uncle Lu. It's just that white sugar has just been invented. It might not be a good thing no matter who takes it. But don't worry, Uncle Lu. In the future, I'll give you the cheapest price for the white sugar that the Lu family's restaurants need." "Huh, that's a deal." Old Master Lu nodded. He also understood that this formula was indeed the most suitable to be offered to the imperial court. As they were talking, a commotion suddenly came from downstairs. Faintly, someone called out to Lu Wei, "Young Master Lu, how long are you going to hide in the private room? Come out, everyone is here." "That's right. As a man, you can't go back on your words. It's just 5 shops, right? If you lose, so be it. What's so horrible about it?" "Young Master Lu, don't tell me you were beaten up by your father and don't dare to come out?" "Old Master Lu, you can't stop young Master Lu." Lu Wei snorted. "These bastards." As he spoke, he was about to open the window of the private room. Unexpectedly, the window of the other private room opposite opened first. A young man's voice quickly sounded. "What's with the noise? It's not time yet. You're disturbing my mood for food. Why are you in a hurry to watch the show?" Lu Wei's hand that was opening the window paused, and a smile hung on his face. Gu Yundong asked curiously, "Who is it?" Duan Qingyuan, the young master of the county magistrate of Fengkai County. Gu Yundong remembered that when they first met, Lu Wei had told him that he knew the county magistrate's son. "He seems pretty protective of you." Lu Wei was a little proud. As expected of the county magistrate's son, Duan Qingyuan's words carried weight. The arrogant shouts downstairs immediately weakened. Although there were still whispers, no one dared to openly provoke him. However, not long after, the agreed time arrived, and the commotion downstairs could not be suppressed. The moment Tao Xing stepped out of the room on the second floor and walked down the stairs, the commotion reached the peak. Someone told Lu Wei to hurry downstairs and stop hiding away. Gu Yundong even heard a familiar voice from these shouts. Chapter 186, Girl, come down together. Lu Wei, hurry up. If you don't come down, we'll go up and carry you down. This voice was cheap and loud, instantly drowning out the laughter of the others. Gu Yundong was still wondering where she had heard this voice when Shao Qingyuan reminded him in a low voice, "It's Peng Zhongfei." Huh! It was him. Gu Yundong could not help but look at Lu Wei. Aren't you friends with Peng Zhongfei? He's just a bad friend. He and Tao Xing are also friends. They drink together and go to brothels together. At the critical moment, they would watch from the side. How could they really support each other? Old Master Lu coughed lightly. Lu Wei was stunned for a moment and immediately reacted. Don't misunderstand. I went to the brothel to recite poems, play the zither, and recite music to relieve the bitterness in my heart. Oh, Gu Yundong looked like she understood. She finally understood what the place that Lu Yi had said she should not visit was. Lu Wei was speechless. He felt that she didn't believe his words at all, but as heaven and earth could see, he really didn't do anything he shouldn't have. Just as he was feeling depressed, another cry sounded from downstairs. Lu Wei was annoyed. He suddenly pushed open the window and shouted below, all right. What are you shouting for? Are you in a hurry to die? It'll come down now. As soon as he opened the window, the people downstairs not only saw him, but also Gu Yundong, who was standing by the window. Tao Xing thought of what his shopkeeper had said before. He narrowed his eyes slightly and said, Lu Wei, you'd better come down quickly. Don't make everyone wait. By the way, the person beside you is the girl who can make white sugar, right? Invite her down together. How about letting her repeat what she said in my grocery store? Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. No, you won't be able to be smug in a while. She really just wanted to watch the show. After all, Tao Xing's goal was only Lu Wei. She didn't expect him to mention her. Lu Wei snorted coldly. If you want me to go down, go down. He closed the window and said to Luan, carry the basket down. Let's teach them a lesson. Luan was also very excited. During this period of time, Tao Xing's servants would laugh at him every time they saw him. They would say that he had a brainless master and that he had become stupid. He had restrained himself from retorting on the spot. This time, he could finally hold his head high. After waiting for so long, today finally came. Luan took out the cloth bag from the vat and placed it on the basket. Then, he carried the basket on his back in high spirits and followed Lu Wei downstairs. Old Master Lu was still up there. After all, the people below were all juniors. If he went down, he would be giving them too much face. He comfortably made himself a cup of sugar water and sat on the chair, enjoying it with his eyes slightly narrowed. However, when the people downstairs saw that he was not coming down, they felt that he was too ashamed. But it didn't matter. He could still feel it upstairs. Lu Wei went downstairs. Along the way, people on the stairs, along the aisle, and in the lobby downstairs all moved aside to make way for them. Tao Xing sat in the middle of the hall with a smile. There was a table in front of him with a few pieces of paper on it. They were the bet agreement between him and Lu Wei, as well as the contracts for the 5 shops. He glanced at Lu Wei, then at Gu Yundong. She was quite good-looking, but she didn't have any brains. She was also dressed in old-fashioned clothes. It was said that she came from the countryside and didn't know much. She dared to say anything. Lu Wei was actually charmed by such a person. This generation of the Lu family was probably finished. Peng Zhongfei, who was sitting beside him, also saw Gu Yundong and immediately stood up. Chapter 187. Broadening their horizons. Previously, Peng Zhongfei did not see clearly who the woman in the private room on the second floor was. Now, he knew that it was Gu Yundong. For some reason, he felt a little flustered. Perhaps because he had made too much noise, Tao Xing turned his head and looked at him. What's wrong? No, nothing. Peng Zhongfei sat back down silently. Just now, he was the one who caused the most trouble. Now, he was as quiet as a chicken and did not say anything. However, Peng Zhongfei was still puzzled. When did Gu Yundong and Lu Wei become so close? Tao Xing glanced at him strangely and ignored him. He reached out and knocked on the table. Put up the contracts for the 5 shops. Lu Wei's hair was still a little messy. He sat on the chair brought over by the waiter angrily. He first flipped through the contract on Tao Xing's desk. Seeing that the addresses were indeed the ones they had agreed on previously, he was satisfied and took out his copy. Tao Xing also took a look and immediately smiled. They had been coveting the Lu family's shops for a long time. Now, they finally took this opportunity to set a trap for Lu Wei and make him willingly lose. Both sides placed their bets on the table and invited the 2 middlemen who had witnessed their bet. It was actually useless to say that they were middlemen. Now that everyone in the county knew, most of them had gone to the restaurant to witness it with their own eyes. If anyone dared to break the contract in front of everyone, not only would they lose all their face, but their family's reputation would also be affected, which would be bad for their business. All right, young Master Lu, let's not waste our breath. Back then, our Tao family's shopkeeper heard with his own ears that this girl said that she could make white sugar that was as white as clouds, right? As Tao Xing spoke, he looked at Gu Yundong. The latter nodded. It's indeed what I said. Moreover, your shopkeeper said at that time that if I made it, your family would buy it at 10 times the price. Tao Xing nodded, indicating that he did not deny it. Now that so many days have passed, we've given you enough time. So, where's the sugar? That's right. Where's the sugar? The person beside him asked with a smile. I've never seen sugar as white as clouds. Ha, you really dare to say that? Why don't you just admit defeat? It's not a big deal. If you're willing to bet and admit defeat, you can still be a man. However, young Master Lu, you should open your eyes wide in the future. Don't be friends with everyone in the corner and harm others and yourself. Gu Yundong was speechless. She smiled. In a while, she would be able to hear the beautiful slaps on their faces. Lu Wei glanced at them from the corner of his eyes. If you've never seen it before, it means that you're ignorant. You really think too highly of yourselves. As he spoke, he waved his hand and flipped his hair. Luan, broaden their horizons. Yes, young master, Luan replied excitedly. He bent down and took out the cloth bag from the basket with great effort. Everyone was confused. Could it be that there really was something? Tao Xing also frowned slightly and straightened his body. Ever since Peng Zhongfei heard that Gu Yundong might have made the sugar, he felt that Lu Wei was going to win. This person had the protection of that mysterious old man. What could she not do? As soon as the cloth bag was pulled open, the people around the table craned their necks to look inside. Then, their pupils dilated slightly. This is... Lu Wei waved his hand. Go away. He took a bowl, scooped out a bowl, and placed it on the table with a bang. Come, try it. I'll show you what white sugar is. Chapter 188. These animals, everyone stared at the white particles in front of them and could not help but swallow their saliva. However, after watching for a long time, no one made a move. They only raised their heads and looked at each other. Lu Wei was getting impatient. Do you want to eat it or not? Hurry up. Don't make it look like I'm going to poison you to death. Qingyuan was the first to go forward. He pinched it with his hand and put it into his mouth. Then his eyes suddenly lit up. It's sweet. It's really sugar. Of course, Lu Wei said proudly. In the next moment, the onlookers at the table rushed forward and pushed Lu Wei away. They didn't even care about their basic manners and reached into their bowls with one hand each. Fortunately, Gu Yundong was quick. Shao Qingyuan pulled him to the side and avoided the noisy crowd. Soon, exclamations sounded in the hall one after another. Oh my God, it's really sugar. It's refreshing. Just like clouds, young Master Lu was not bragging. Ah, this is good. This is good. I like it. Delicious. The chatter made the people watching from the outside itch. They wanted to squeeze in and take a look with their own eyes, but there were too many people. They could not even see them, let alone squeeze in. When Lu Wei was pulled out by Luan, his hair was even messier, and his clothes were torn into a mess as if someone had molested him. At this moment, he still remembered to take out the bag of white sugar tightly in his arms, afraid that it would be swallowed by these wolves and tigers. When he was outside the crowd, he heaved a sigh of relief and wiped the sweat off his forehead. These animals look like they haven't seen candy in 8 lifetimes. He looked up and saw Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan standing far away. Not even a strand of hair was messy. He was so angry that his hands trembled. "You're too much. Why didn't you help me when you came out? We're doing this for your own good. If we hadn't come out early, your 5 shops might have flown away," Gu Yundong said and pointed at the other end of the crowd. On the other side, Tao Xing was being escorted out by his servant. Lu Wei glared at him and shouted, "Tao Xing, are you trying to go back on your word?" Perhaps because his voice was too sharp, it drowned out the noisy crowd. The people around the table instantly quietened down and looked in Tao Xing's direction. Tao Xing cursed in his heart and slowly straightened up. He tidied up his clothes that were also messed up and turned to look at Lu Wei. "What nonsense are you talking about? Going back on my word? I just saw too many people being squeezed out. Didn't you come out too?" It would be strange if Lu Wei believed him. He trembled and went forward. "All right, since you're not going to go back on your word, we can fulfill the bet now. You have eaten the white sugar too. How is it? It's the same as the white clouds, right?" He saw 2 grains of white sugar stuck to the corner of Tao Xing's mouth. Tao Xing's face darkened. Lu Wei had already spread out his hands. "Give me the contracts." Tao Xing was indignant and clenched his fists. He wanted to go back on his word. Those were 5 shops, and they were considered good 5 shops in the Tao family. At that time, he had promised in front of his father that he would not lose, so his father had given him the deeds. In the end, not only did he not win back the Lu family's shops, but he also suffered heavy losses. Wouldn't he be beaten to death by his father when he returned home? Most importantly, his eldest brother would definitely take this opportunity to suppress him. Tao Xing pursed his lips. When he looked up, he suddenly saw Gu Yundong standing at the side. Chapter 189. Peng Zhongfei, the fence-sitters. When Lu Wei saw his eyes rolling around, he knew that this guy was definitely up to no good. Sure enough, in the next moment he heard Tao Xing point at Gu Yundong and say, "I admit that this white sugar is real. But our bet was that you could make such snow-white sugar. Can you guarantee that you really made this white sugar and you didn't find it from somewhere?" Gu Yundong did not expect the fire to burn her. She glanced at Lu Wei and nodded. "I made it. Do you want me to swear?" "What's the use of swearing?" Tao Xing snorted. "Why don't you do it again in front of all of us? That way we will believe that you created this thing." Gu Yundong was so angry that she almost laughed. In front of everyone? How could he say that? However, the surrounding people did not mind the commotion and started to jeer. That's right. Make it again in front of everyone so that we can see how this white sugar came about." Tao Xing proudly looked at Lu Wei provocatively. Unexpectedly, he had only been smug for 2 seconds when he heard an unexpected voice. "Then why don't you tell everyone the secret recipe of your Tao family's wine in front of everyone once? Let everyone see if your family brewed it. Otherwise, how would we know where your family bought it from?" The Tao family mainly operated a winery that had been around for many years. It had been passed down from their ancestors for more than 100 years. Tao Xing frowned and turned around. He saw Peng Zhongfei standing up and tidying his clothes. Peng was indeed unreliable. Wherever there was benefit, he would change sides. In fact, Peng Zhongfei was not the only one. Many people present saw the benefits brought by the white sugar. At this moment, they felt that there was no need to become enemies with the Lu family and this girl. Hence, they nodded one after another. That makes sense. The formula of the white sugar must be a complicated secret. I don't know how much effort it took to create it. How can it be publicized in front of everyone? Duan Qingyuan also smiled and said, Young Master Tao has admitted to this white sugar, and you didn't say that they have to publicize the secret recipe in front of everyone when you made the bet back then. Now, you're finding all kinds of excuses to make things difficult for others. Are you trying to go back on your word? That won't do. Everyone is watching. Is the Tao family so untrustworthy? Lu Wei laughed out loud. He deliberately made it sound more serious. He didn't believe that if the matter had already escalated to the Tao family, he would still dare to make excuses. As expected, Tao Xing's face darkened. He immediately laughed dryly. Of course, the Tao family won't go back on their word. I didn't consider everything just now and said something I shouldn't have said. I, Tao Xing, will keep my word and fulfill the bet. Lu Wei flipped up his right hand. The contracts. Tao Xing gritted his teeth and lowered his head slightly. His eyes became gloomy. He asked the servant behind him to bring the contracts over and personally handed them to Lu Wei. Lu Wei flipped through them in front of everyone. After reading them again and again, he was finally satisfied. Don't forget to visit the government later. With that, he turned around and left. However, just as he took a step forward, he suddenly stopped as if he had thought of something. Then, he took out the white sugar in his hand. I almost forgot. Back then, your shopkeeper said that he would buy this white sugar back at 10 times the price. It's just right. 20 caddies for 80 taels of silver. Tao Xing was stunned. This white sugar was a rare thing. It was not a bad idea to buy it back. However, 80 taels was too expensive. Just as he was about to say that Lu Wei had scooped out a bowlful previously and wanted to lower the price, a voice suddenly sounded in his ear. I'll pay 100 taels. Give me these 20 caddies of white sugar. Chapter 190. Almost corrupted by money, I offer 110 taels. 120 taels. 150 taels. One after another, voices sounded in the hall. These young masters were not short of money, especially those from families who did business. How could this 180 taels compare to such rare white sugar? Lu Wei's eyes lit up. He didn't expect this bag of white sugar to be auctioned. But this sugar belonged to Gu Yundong. He turned to ask for her opinion. Gu Yundong's eyes were also sparkling. Let the prodigal sons come more fiercely. She was very short of money now. However, reality was cruel. Soon, a steward who had been following Old Master Lu came down and walked to their side. He said softly, Old Master said that it's not wrong for Miss Gu to want to take the opportunity to earn more money, but it's not good to go too far. After all, Miss Gu is about to start a white sugar business. This will be no longer unique. The young master who bought the white sugar later will feel that the price was too high and you might make enemies. The impression of Miss Gu on the people present will also worsen. In the future, the business will be affected. Peace is still the most important thing in doing business. When Shao Qingyuan heard this, he nodded slightly. Old Master Lu is right. Moreover, it's best to sell the candy to the Tao family. Gu Yundong knew that Old Master Lu was teaching him. He was afraid that she would not be able to withstand the temptation at such a young age. She was someone who could listen to opinions. Her eyes quickly calmed down from its all money. She took a deep breath and said to the manager, Thank you, Uncle Lu. Yundong understands. The steward went up with relief. Gu Yundong saw that the bids were getting more and more ridiculous. Some people even raised the price to 400 taels for the sake of personal feelings. Moreover, it seemed that the others had no intention of stopping. She secretly wiped her sweat. She had almost been corrupted by money. Everyone be quiet. Gu Yundong suddenly spoke. The group of people who were arguing until their faces were red immediately stopped. They heard her say, I'm really sorry, everyone. I still have to give the sugar to the Tao family. After all, we agreed back then. Tao Xing was angry at first, but when he heard this, he was instantly happy. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong continued, It's just that young Master Lu was wrong about one thing. Back then, the shopkeeper said that he would buy it back at 10 times the price, so it was 10 times the price of this white sugar. And this white sugar will be released soon. At that time, the price will be 100 copper coins per tael. Here, 20 caddies is 32 taels, so 10 times the price is 320 taels. So young Master Tao, for 320 taels, this sugar is yours. This was not wrong. If Qin Wenjing brought it back, the imperial court would set the price at 100 copper coins per tael of white sugar. Gu Yundong felt that the price was actually not bad. Many people could afford it. She remembered that white sugar used to be a luxury item that only the royal family could afford in England. When the people present heard this price, they felt that it was very acceptable. The bid just now had soared to 600 taels. Tao Xing almost vomited blood. Previously he found 80 taels too expensive, but now it was 320 taels. He wouldn't pay. Whoever wanted it could have it. But before he could say anything, he heard a dignified voice behind him. Tao Xing, give it to her. The Tao family won't go back on their word and bully a girl. Tao Xing suddenly turned around and saw his father, who was originally in the private room upstairs, standing behind him with a very ugly expression. Chapter 191. Silver again. However, it was not only Master Tao who was standing there, but also Tao Xing's brother, Tao Feng, whom he hated very much. Tao Feng had a smile on his face, and his expression was filled with gloating. Old Master Tao had already walked forward and said to Lu Wei and Gu Yundong, "The Tao family admits defeat. Young Master Lu is so capable. The friends you know are not ordinary people." Lu Wei secretly cursed the old fox in his heart, but he said with a smile, "Thank you for your praise." Under Master Tao's sharp gaze, Tao Xing finally took out 320 taels of silver and handed it to Lu Wei. Lu Wei retracted his hand and called Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan upstairs. He didn't want to talk to Master Tao. Anyway, he had already gotten what he wanted. Gu Yundong was also satisfied. She was no longer short of money. With this money, she could buy land, build a factory, and collect sugarcane. Life was getting better bit by bit. Thinking back to those days in the apocalypse, it really felt like heaven now. Gu Yundong's footsteps were light. She had only taken 2 steps when she suddenly realized that Shao Qingyuan was not following her. She was stunned for a moment. She turned her head and saw that he was looking at a certain point with a dark gaze. Following his gaze, Gu Yundong could not help but feel strange. Shao Qingyuan? Why was he looking at Master Tao? But, do you know Master Tao? Shao Qingyuan came back to his senses and shook his head slowly. He smiled at her and said, "I don't know him. Let's go up." Although Gu Yundong was curious, he did not seem to be willing to say more, so she did not ask further. They followed Lu Wei back to the Lu family's private room. At this moment, the people in the lobby downstairs suddenly reacted and rushed upstairs in unison. "Miss, is what you said true? We'll be able to buy this white sugar soon?" "That's right. Where can we buy it?" "Which shop? Does it really only cost 100 copper coins per tael?" "Miss, please wait. I'm the second young master of the Gao family. You can cooperate with our Gao family to sell white sugar." "Our Gao family, get lost. I'm from the Fu family." "All of you stop dreaming. Can't you see that there's a Lu family over there? That girl must have cooperated with the Lu family." As soon as he said this, the others stopped. That's right. The Lu family was richer than them. It was not their turn. However, they did not give up. Many people still went upstairs to talk to Gu Yundong. Fortunately, Lu Wei brought them away quickly. After entering the private room, old Master Lu immediately asked his steward to go out and deal with them. Only then did they heave a sigh of relief. In contrast, the Tao family of 3 did not come up. Master Tao did not even want to stay in this restaurant for long. He turned around and left with his 2 sons. As Tao Xing walked, his eyes darted around. After getting into the carriage, he immediately went to Master Tao's side and said, "Father, are you willing to let us lose these 5 shops? That Lu family did it on purpose. That sugar was prepared long ago and they even pretended to be about to lose. They're sinister and despicable." Old Master Tao was angry and disappointed in his son. "That's because you're stupid. You fell into the trap so easily." After saying that, he closed her eyes and ignored him. Tao Xing gritted his teeth. "Father, I didn't think this through. I accept the punishment, but it's not like we can't get it back. Oh, how do you want to get it back? Tao Feng asked, but he looked at Tao Xing with disdain. Tao Xing didn't even look at him and continued to say to Master Tao, "Father, that Gu girl is just a country girl. We can totally force her to hand over the formula." Chapter 192, Beaten, Hill. As soon as Tao Xing finished speaking, he was slapped hard on the face. He covered his face in disbelief and glared at his father. "Dad, you hit me? Stop it. If you dare to go out and cause trouble again, I'll break your legs." Old Master Tao had been suppressing his anger. Wouldn't he be angry after losing 5 shops? Wouldn't he be angry after being laughed at by so many people? His family was arrogant and proud before, but today, they were as sarcastic and embarrassed. He had lost all his face, but he still had to personally go downstairs to clean up the aftermath for his son and protect the last bit of dignity of the Tao family. It was fine if Tao Xing did not regret it at all, but he actually came up with a bad idea. Old Master Tao wanted to endure it until he reached home before teaching him a lesson, but his thoughts flew away. He wished he could kick him out of the carriage. However, Tao Xing had always been pampered at home. His father had never hit him. Now, in front of his elder brother, "Father, why?" Master Tao took a deep breath and said to Tao Feng, "Tell him." "Second brother, why can't you understand?" Tao Feng shook his head and said with a disappointed expression, "That girl is indeed just a country girl, but the Lu family is not. Old Master Lu has been in the business world for so many years. How can he not know how much trouble this white sugar will cause once it appears? How can he not know how many people are secretly eyeing it? Since he dares to take it out, it means that he has already considered all aspects. Aren't you afraid that someone will have ill intentions?" Tao Feng sighed. "The truth is that not only can we not have any crooked thoughts, but even the Lu family can't get involved in the sugar business." Tao Feng was originally not at Yunshu restaurant. He had specially rushed over to tell Master Tao after receiving the news so that the Tao family would not suffer. Tao Xing looked unconvinced. Even the Lu family didn't cooperate with her? Who are you kidding? How can a country girl make such a deal? She doesn't work with the Lu family, but she, Tao Feng pointed at the sky. "You dare to touch her?" Tao Xing swallowed his saliva and did not dare to say a word. Old Master Tao sneered. "After you go back, stay in your courtyard and study obediently. You're not allowed to go out in a month. Leave the rest to your brother, do you hear me?" Tao Xing's eyes widened. But Tao Feng nodded with a serious expression. "Father, don't worry. I'll do my best. Although we can't interfere with the white sugar matter, we can still make a deal. I'll go back to the restaurant now and talk to Miss Gu." "Yeah." After Tao Feng got out of the carriage, Master Tao brought Tao Xing home. However, Tao Feng was destined to return empty-handed. While the Lu family steward was dealing with the people downstairs, Gu Yundong and Shao Qingyuan were taken away by Lu Wei from the back door of the restaurant. Only when the 3 of them got into the carriage did they slowly heave a sigh of relief. Lu Wei said, "Gu girl, don't worry. My father can handle things here. You don't have to worry that those people will find your Yongfu village. Brother Qin will block them." "Phew, I didn't expect these people to be so crazy." Lu Wei chuckled and suddenly moved closer to her. If Shao Qingyuan had not reached out to block him, he would have knocked Gu Yundong's head. "Gu girl, you've helped me so much today. Tell me what you want. As long as I can do it, I'll definitely do it for you." What? Gu Yundong touched her chin. Of course, what she wanted the most was money. Wasn't the Lu family rich? But now... Chapter 193, Got a shop. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. "I want a shop." Lu Wei was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. Yes. If you want to do business, you must have shops. Coincidentally, I won 5 shops from Tao Xing today. Let me tell you, these shops are not bad. I'll give you 2. So generous? Gu Yundong knew very well that although Lu Wei had won the bet by himself, Tao Xing had placed such a huge bet because they wanted to trick the Lu family. The Lu family also needed to take out the same stake before this bet could be established. She was not greedy. She only wanted a shop. Lu Wei smiled smugly. I've always been generous. Besides, it's all thanks to you this time. Come, let me introduce you to these 5 shops. You can choose first. If possible, it was actually better to bring her to see the shops. However, the shops were not empty yet, so it was inconvenient. Gu Yundong pondered as she listened, occasionally asking for Shao Qingyuan's opinion. When Lu Wei was done explaining the pros and cons, Gu Yundong knew what to do. I want the shop in the east of the city with a backyard. That shop was in a good location and was not far from Qin Wensheng School. It also had a rather large backyard that could accommodate people. In the future, if Yunshu's school was inconvenient for him to go home, he could have a place to stay. There was also a well in the backyard, and there were 3 to 4 rooms. The surroundings of the shop were also lively. Many wealthy families in Fengkai County lived in that area, and the scenery was not bad. Gu Yundong only wanted this shop. Firstly, this shop was the largest and best among them. Although the others were not bad, they did not make her particularly tempted. Secondly, she had just received more than 300 taels of silver from Tao Xing. It would be too greedy to ask for another shop. Although Lu Wei didn't mind, she didn't know what the other members of the Lu family were thinking. Gu Yundong knew when to stop. Besides, she would soon have a source of income. If she wanted a shop in the future, she would buy it herself. Lu Wei tried to persuade her a few times but to no avail. He could only give up and go straight to the government office to give her the shop. As they chatted, they arrived at the brokerage in Hulu Alley. The 6 members of the Tong family were already waiting for her, but Gu Yundong only had 1 carriage. If there were too many people, it would seem too crowded. The Tong family expressed that they could walk on their own, but Gu Yundong did not agree. Anyway, Lu Wei was here, so it was the same to borrow his carriage. It was getting late. The group got into the carriage and went straight to the city gate. However, not long after the carriage left, Gu Yundong suddenly stopped it. She was sitting in Lu Wei's carriage, and the driver was Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan stopped the carriage and saw Gu Yundong jump down and enter a shop in front of him. He looked up and realized that it was a clothing shop. It seemed to be the Peng family's shop. Gu Yundong came out after a while. He carried a bag and got into the carriage. Let's go. Shao Qingyuan took a few more glances curiously, but he didn't ask. The carriage quickly left the city gate and headed straight for Yongfu village. The 2 carriages entered the village one after another and went straight to the foot of the mountain. The villagers were already used to it. On the other hand, apart from Boss Tong, who was driving the carriage, the rest of the Tong family stayed in the carriage obediently. They did not even lift the curtain. However, they were still a little nervous. When the master girl bought them, she did not say much. Now, they knew that they had entered the village. Chapter 194. Gu Yunshu's worry. The carriage stopped in front of the Zheng family's house. The 6 members of the Tong family alighted one by one. They looked up and saw the dilapidated mud brick house in front of them. Even though they were mentally prepared, they still found it unbelievable. Especially after Gu Yundong brought them into the courtyard and they saw the narrow road with the low courtyard walls, they looked at each other. The master's house was actually like this? The Tong family really could not understand. The master had spent so much money on them. Why did she not use it to repair the house? Until Gu Yundong said to them, "Our house has just been built. We can only move in the day after tomorrow. Well, make do here for the next 2 days. The men will squeeze in the Shao family next door first, and the women will stay here. This is Auntie Dong. This is her home. Auntie Dong has already helped pack your room. Go take a look and put down your luggage." Dong Xiulan knew that she had gone out early in the morning to buy people, so she quickly tidied up the unoccupied room in her house. The Shao family could also vacate a room, so they could arrange it. The Tong family hurriedly nodded. After Gu Yundong introduced the others, the women followed Dong Xiulan into the house, and the man followed Shao Qingyuan to the next room. When they went out, they happened to see the Gu family's green brick-tiled house. All of them were a little surprised. They did not expect such a house to exist in the countryside. They wondered who lived inside. The Tong family were all people with work to do in their eyes. Especially when they were in an unfamiliar place, they were more or less trembling in fear. Therefore, as soon as they put down their things, they immediately came out to help chop firewood, fetch water, and cook dinner. Dinner was quite sumptuous. After all, there were more people in the house and they had earned more money. It was something to celebrate. During dinner, Gu Yundong mentioned that there was an additional shop in the house. The Zheng family was very surprised. You have a shop? Where is it? How big is it? Are you planning to sell white sugar? Gu Yundong nodded. It's used to sell white sugar. It's in the east of the city. However, the shop hasn't been vacated yet. It can only be used in a few days. When the time comes, you'll have to ask Uncle Feng to help change the layout inside. When it opens, everyone will join in the fun. Madame Dong was very happy. All right, I'll definitely go. Gu Yunshu secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He had been worried that his family would run out of money after buying servants. He had been debating the entire day whether he should owe the teacher his tuition fees first and pay them in a few years. Now that he heard from his eldest sister that his family had a shop and a source of income, there was no problem. Gu Yunshu was relieved. He had an extra big bowl of food for dinner. Gu Yundong turned around and saw the expression on his face. She suddenly had a headache. Why did her brother think that his family was so poor that they could not even pay his tuition? She clearly acted like she was rich. If he was worried at such a young age, he might not grow up tall in the future. After dinner, the Tong family members began to clean up. Gu Yundong returned to her room. After a while, she came out with the bag she had brought back from the county. Everyone was busy and did not see her. Gu Yundong came out of the Zheng family's back door and went straight to the next door. Shao Qingyuan was feeding the horses. The Liu family's carriage was temporarily resting at his house. Liu Wei had said that he could return it when he was free. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he was slightly stunned and could not help but stop what he was doing. Chapter 195. The clothes are gifted. Gu Yundong patted the bag in her hand with a smile and handed it to him. This is for you. What? Shao Qingyuan could tell. Wasn't this what she had taken out when she entered the ready-to-wear shop? Clothes. Shao Qingyuan looked at her and then at the bag in her hand. After a while, he held his breath and opened the bag. In the next moment, a navy blue dress was revealed. It was brand new and it made one's eyes light up. He looked up in shock, his voice slightly hoarse. You're giving it to me? Gu Yundong coughed lightly. That's right. I saw that the last time you went hunting in the mountains, when you came back, your clothes had already become strips. I didn't see you buy new clothes, so I took the cloth and went to the tailor's to get someone to make a set. After all, you'll be working with me in the future. You have to wear better clothes. Otherwise, people will think that I took all your money. As she spoke, she heaved a sigh of relief. She had finally found an excuse to give it away. The corners of Shao Qingyuan's lips curled up uncontrollably. He reached out to touch the new clothes, but immediately retracted his hand. He stuffed the bag back into Gu Yundong's arms and turned around to run to the water vat. He scooped 2 ladles of water and began to wash his hands carefully. Gu Yundong was confused at first and thought that he did not like it. Unexpectedly, after washing his hands, he began to carefully stroke his clothes, his face full of joy. At that moment, she suddenly felt sad and bitter. Auntie Dong had told her about Shao Qingyuan's background. She said that his adoptive parents had disliked him since he was young. He had picked up clothes that others had sewn and mended and didn't want to wear. How could clothes that others didn't wear be good? Especially in winter, the cotton was already hard and completely cold. He had to wear it for a few years, but he grew up quickly and was often laughed at. It was only after his grandfather passed away that he went to the ready-to-wear shop to buy 2 sets of clothes and changed back and forth. This was probably the first time he had received clothes from someone. Ahem, do you like it? Shao Qingyuan immediately nodded. When he looked up at Gu Yundong, his eyes were bright. You know my size? Isn't your focus wrong? I've made a rough estimate. I don't know if it fits. You can try it later. If it doesn't fit, you can change it. It fits, Shao Qingyuan said without thinking. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She suddenly could not stand his gaze and hurriedly said, "That's all for now. Independent Illinois, go back." After saying that, she quickly left. Shao Qingyuan didn't move. He just stared at her back until she left. Then, he lowered his eyes to look at the bag in his hand, and the smile on his lips grew wider. He quickly turned around and entered the house, taking out his clothes to change into. It really fit him. It felt warm and comfortable on his body. However, in the next moment, he quickly took it off and gently folded it to the side. Then, he put on his original tattered clothes and went out the door with his bow and arrow. He went straight up the mountain. Gu Yundong did not know that. She had fallen asleep after returning to the Zheng family. Actually, she had also thought of asking Madame Dong to help make the clothes. However, that day she took out the fabric for some reason. When she arrived at the county city, she asked the shopkeeper of the tailor shop to help make a set. Chapter 196. Familiar Gu Yundong rubbed her brows, turned over, and fell asleep. The next day, she went to look for Chen Liang to buy land. Chen Liang was so shocked that he almost spat out his water. Buy land again? How come she still have money? I'm buying a homestead this time. I want to build a workshop. A workshop? Chen Liang's eyes lit up. Their village was not very rich, and the villagers relied on those acres of land to make a living. Some villages had workshops. Even if it was a small village that specialized in carpentry, the village was also famous among those towns and counties. The villagers more or less benefited from it, and their families were much better. Now, there would actually be a workshop in their village? Chen Liang was a little excited. He stood up and paced around the central room. After a long while, she finally calmed down and asked about serious matters. "What is your workshop doing? How big is it? Do you have any idea? If you build a workshop, it won't be a joke." "Of course. Don't worry, Uncle Chen. My workshop plans to make sugar. I want to buy 5 acres of land first and build it after spring." It was too late to build it now. The sugar cane was seasonal. When her workshop was completed, the sugar cane would be gone. Besides, Feng Danning was currently helping 2 other families to build houses. He could not spare the time. As for this period of time, she could only see if she could rent a place. Chen Liang listened to her roughly and nodded repeatedly. In the end, he waved his hand and said, "All right, 5 acres of land, or the one at the foot of the mountain?" "That's right." However, they still had to walk away from the house. Otherwise, it would be too noisy and it would be messy. Chen Liang pointed out a few places to her. After confirming it, he said that it would be done soon. But before Gu Yundong left, he stammered, "Well, Yundong, once your workshop is built, can you hire the locals from the village first?" Gu Yundong was stunned. He smiled and said, "Of course. The uncles and aunts in the village have helped me a lot recently. I will definitely think of them. But I will definitely hire people who are diligent and efficient. Forget about those who are sneaky." Of course, of course." Chen Liang nodded repeatedly, extremely happy. Gu Yundong really felt that he was a good village chief. He was focused on helping the villagers. Compared to the previous head of the Gu family, he was worlds apart. She went back, but Chen Liang was still standing at the door with a silly smile on his lips. Madame Zhou walked out and sighed slightly. "The Gu family's girl will be amazing in the future. Don't you think we should listen to what she said last time?" She was referring to the school where Niu Dan went to that Gu Yundong came to talk about. Actually, they were quite satisfied with that teacher and felt that he had taught them correctly. Shouldn't students just read books? Why would the adults in the family need them for farm work? Even if the teacher didn't say anything, they wouldn't let Niu Dan go to the fields. However, Gu Yundong said that the child had to have good stamina for the exams in the future. By helping the family, he could understand how difficult it was for his parents and family. He would cherish them even more. In any case, what she said made sense. However, she was only a 13-year-old girl after all. The teacher of the school was so old and was an elementary scholar. How could he be wrong? But look at Gu Yundong now. Wasn't she advancing step by step? Chen Liang was also thinking about this question. After a while, he said, "Let me think about it." When Gu Yundong returned to the Zheng family, he realized that only his mother was there. The Tong family's mother said, "Master Shao next door caught a roe deer." Everyone went to help. Gu Yundong was surprised. Shao Qingyuan entered the mountain? Shao Qingyuan returned after getting a roe deer. As soon as he entered, he took a shower and changed into his new clothes. When Dong Xiulan entered, she happened to see him coming out in high spirits. She could not help but take a few more glances. The color of the clothes felt familiar. Chapter 197. Clothes make a man. Not only did Dong Xiulan take a second look at him, but the others in the courtyard were also stunned when they saw him coming out in a new set of clothes. Shao Qingyuan's usual clothes were gray and especially old. Now that he was dressed like this, he surprisingly looked handsome and noble. He was not inferior to Lu Wei from the county. When Gu Yundong entered, she saw this scene and her eyes lit up. Indeed, clothes were everything. Shao Qingyuan's good looks had been ruined by him. But soon, when Gu Yundong's gaze landed on the roe deer on the ground, she frowned again. "Did you go into the mountains last night?" Shao Qingyuan suddenly thought of what she had said previously and thought that she was angry. He immediately explained, "I wasn't deep in the mountains. There's no danger." Gu Yundong pursed her lips and muttered softly, "It's late at night. Even if you didn't go deep into the mountains, it's still dangerous. Besides, the weather was so cold. Can't you hunt during the day?" "All right, I won't go next time." Gu Yundong was speechless. She only muttered a few words and did not say that she wanted to order him around. Her ears were quite sharp. She coughed lightly and glanced at him again. "The clothes fit you quite well." With that, she turned to look at the roe deer. She squatted down and poked it. It was actually quite fat. "Perfect. We're moving tomorrow. I originally planned to roast meat to celebrate. Now, I don't have to go to town to buy meat." When Shao Qingyuan heard this, he immediately pointed at the wild chickens and rabbits beside him. "There's still a lot over there. It should be enough to eat tomorrow." He was too excited last night and was full of energy. He had caused a lot of trouble on the way up the mountain. Gu Yunke ran to Gu Yundong's side and held her hand. "Eldest sister, is the roast meat delicious?" "It's delicious. I guarantee you'll drool." The little girl's eyes immediately lit up. Then it'll help." She looked around and pointed at the pheasant. "Help pluck the feathers. Go on." The little girl obediently ran to the pile of prey and began to pluck it. In the end, she was pecked by the pheasant that was still alive. The little girl covered her small hand and patted the pheasant's head. "If you peck me again, I'll eat you." Gu Yundong's mouth twitched when she saw this. When she saw Zheng Yu step forward, she did not care anymore. However, the girl from the Tong family asked her curiously, "Eldest miss, where are we moving to tomorrow?" The girl from the Tong family was called Tong Shuitao. She was 14 years old and looked soft and weak, but she was stronger than her father. She could lift the roe deer in front of her with one hand. Perhaps because they were slowly getting familiar with each other and knew that their master was not as fierce as before, they became a little bolder. Gu Yundong liked her. She worked hard and was smart. She was a little surprised. "We're moving to the new house opposite. Didn't you see it when you went out? It's quite a big building." Tong Shuitao widened her eyes and opened her mouth wide. Of course she saw it. So, that was the master's house where they would live in the future. Gu Yundong laughed. She thought that even if she did not say it, they would be able to guess it. "All right. Let's prepare the roe deer and the wild chicken and rabbits first." Tong Shuitao blushed and went to pick up the roe deer. Gu Yundong then went to look for Dong Xiulan. She wanted to ask her to make a school bag for Gu Yunshu to carry to school. However, after looking around and not seeing anyone, she could not help but walk in. Just as she reached the door of the room on the left, she suddenly heard Dong Xiulan's voice. She seemed to have mentioned her. Chapter 198. The two of them are quite suitable for each other. I didn't see wrongly. The clothes Qingyuan is wearing belong to Yundong. Dong Xiulan was talking to her husband, Zheng Hu. Do you think the two of them? Before she could finish speaking, Zhongfu interrupted her. Don't talk nonsense. This is completely ungrounded. Sigh, I'm just worried about those two children. Dong Xiulan sighed softly. It's fine for Qingyuan. He's a loner, and no one cares if he has a wife or not. He doesn't care either. He's almost 20 years old. If he delays any longer, he'll become an old bachelor in the village. Dong Xiulan fed Zhongfu a mouthful of rice. What about Yundong? Although she has a father, a mother, and a family, her father is missing, and her mother doesn't understand these things. Yundong has to take care of herself. She also has to look for her father. Now, she's focused on earning more money. What do you think her family will do when she gets married in the future? Zhongfu couldn't help but nod when he heard that. Yes, she'll be 14 years old after the new year. It's almost time to talk about marriage. With Yundong's current family background, there must be many people proposing marriage. It's just that after she gets married, it won't be easy to take care of her mother and the others. Her in-laws probably won't agree either. Those people who propose marriage are most likely after her family's house. Yundong will definitely suffer if she marries into such a family. Dong Xiaolan's eyes suddenly lit up as she spoke. So I think Yundong and Qingyuan are actually quite suitable for each other. Shao Qingyuan was alone and was doing business with Yundong now. Without in-laws, he could help Yundong take care of Madame Yang and the other two in the future. He was also good-looking and capable. If others wanted to cause trouble, he could beat them out with one hand. Moreover, be it Madame Yang or Yunshu and Yunka, they all liked him. He wouldn't go after her house and money. He was a reliable person. If it weren't for the huge difference between her Zhongyu and Shao Qingyuan, Dong Xiulan would have wanted him to be her son-in-law. Gu Yundong stood at the door and listened. The image of Shao Qingyuan standing in front of her in his new clothes flashed across her mind, and her heart suddenly beat faster. She suddenly reached out and slapped her face. What was she thinking? She was only 14 years old after the new year. It was still early. Gu Yundong did not look for Dong Xiulan. She turned around and left the Shao family. As soon as she reached the courtyard, she saw Shao Qingyuan. Gu Yundong thought of what Madame Dong and Zhongfu had said and subconsciously glared at him. Shao Qingyuan was confused. Seeing her leave in a hurry, he quickly said, I promise I won't go hunting at night again. Gu Yundong staggered and almost fell. Who asked for your promise? She walked even faster and only heaved a sigh of relief when she reached the Zheng family's door. However, in the next moment, a soft cry suddenly came from behind. Hey! Gu Yundong was shocked. She turned around and saw a head sneakily sticking out from the haystack not far away and staring at her for a long time. Gu Yundong could not help but roll her eyes. She strode over. If you're looking for me, just come for me. Why are you sneaking around? Don't you think this is more eye-catching? Zhuangzi paused and thought that it made sense. He stood up straight and chuckled. You're looking for me at this time? Is there a situation? Gu Yundong had asked Zhuangzi to keep an eye on Madame Fong and her daughter, but he had not come to her. She did not expect him to come looking for her today. Chapter 199. Discovering the adultery. Zhuangzi smiled at her mysteriously. Slowly, that smile became vulgar. Gu Yundong could not help but take a small step back. Stop laughing. Hurry up and say it. His smile was too ugly. Ahem. Zhuangzi coughed lightly and looked around before saying softly, You asked me to keep an eye on the mother and daughter previously. Did you already guess that there was an affair? Your guess is right. That Madame Fong looks innocent, but I didn't expect her to have hooked up with someone long ago. Gu Yundong was speechless. She found out that Madame Fong was having an affair? When did this happen? Why didn't she know? Zhuangzi started to smile wretchedly again. Do you know who Madame Fong hooked up with? It's beyond your imagination. Can you get to the point? I didn't expect you to be a gossipy man. Look at how excited you are. The flesh on your face is trembling, okay? Oh, let me tell you. Madame Fang's lover is our village's widower, Zhao Dafa. Before dawn this morning, I saw the two of them secretly meet. Madame Fong even gave Zhao Dafa a bag of something. I don't know what it was. However, the two of them seemed to have quarreled later. Zhao Dafa threw the bag on the ground and left. Zhao Dafa? Gu Yundong did not know him. Although she knew most of the people in the village entrance was too far from the foot of the mountain. She did not recognize all of the people. Zhuangzi was still clicking his tongue. Unfortunately, I was far away and didn't hear what they were arguing about. However, I didn't expect Madame Fong to actually take a fancy to Zhao Dafa. She's bold enough. What's wrong with Zhao Dafa? Gu Yundong asked curiously. This Zhao Dafa, right? He's quite good-looking and comes from a good family. He's even 2 years younger than Madame Fong. However, others might not know this, but I know him very well. That Zhao Dafa likes to beat his wife. Zhuangzi said softly. Zhao Dafa's previous wife ran away because she couldn't stand Zhao Dafa beating her up. She ran away in the middle of the night. I happened to come back from Liangzi's house that day after drinking and saw it with my own eyes. However, the Zhao family said that she was sick the next day and needed to stay at home to recuperate. Half a month later, they said that she died. That Zhao family really cares about their reputation. They don't dare to say that she ran away. How far would it take for a woman to run away in this era where transportation was inconvenient and difficult? Madame Fong and Zhao Dafa? Gu Yundong felt that it was unlikely. However, she could not figure it out for the time being. She could only let Zhuangzi continue to keep an eye on them. Zhuangzi seemed to be especially enthusiastic about this matter. When he heard this, he immediately nodded and turned to run. He only ran 2 steps before he came back. He looked at Gu Yundong and said hesitantly, "Well, I have to thank you. I know that you hired my parents to do things and gave them a very high salary." Without waiting for Gu Yundong to react, he disappeared. Gu Yundong shook her head and returned to the Zheng family. Because there were many people at home, all kinds of meat were prepared quickly. The next morning, everyone hurriedly moved their things to their new home. Gu Yundong took out the barbecue grill that she had ordered previously. This thing was quite big and there was no problem with roasting meat. Previously, she had invited guests when she set up the beam. This time, she would not invite them. However, Gu Yundong still asked Gu Yunshu to invite the village chief and the Feng family over. Unexpectedly, they had not returned even after half a day. Gu Yundong decided to take a look herself. Before she reached the village chief's house, she saw an unfamiliar person looking at her. Gu Yundong was quite sharp. She turned around and saw a middle-aged man standing not far away. Chapter 200. He actually ran away. Gu Yundong frowned. Just as she was about to ask who he was, she saw that person jump up in shock like a mouse seeing a cat and run away. Gu Yundong was speechless. Did she have the word fiendish on her face? "Hey, isn't that Zhao Dafa?" A familiar voice suddenly came from behind. Gu Yundong turned around and saw Chen Liang's family coming over. The one who spoke was Madame Zhou. She was holding a basket filled with various vegetables. Zhao Dafa? So he was the Zhao Dafa that Zhuangzi was talking about. Gu Yundong looked thoughtfully in the direction where he had run off before asking Madame Zhou, "I was about to look for you. I asked Yunshu to invite you over for a meal. I haven't seen you all this time and was thinking about what had delayed you." Gu Yunshu was standing at the back, talking to Niu Dan. When he heard this, he looked up and said, "Don't worry, eldest sister. I will definitely complete the mission." "Isn't that so?" Madame Zhou smiled and said, "Your Yunshu is too eloquent. That little mouth of his is so eloquent. If we didn't come, we would feel that we had committed a heinous crime. However, we can't come empty-handed. Look, we picked some vegetables from the field and we were delayed for a while. Andy, you're too kind." As she spoke, she turned around and didn't see Feng Daning's family. Only then did Yunshu say, "Aunt Ho-Hot is not at home. Uncle Feng said that he is building a house. He's too busy to come." Feng Daning was now a busy man. Ever since he helped Gu Yundong build that green brick house, many people had lined up to ask him to build a house. Now, he had 2 tasks on hand and was extremely busy. Coincidentally, Lu Ho-Hot had brought the 2 children back to her parents' house yesterday and had not returned today. Gu Yundong nodded and left with Qin Liang and the others. It was only when they arrived at the Gu residence that Qin Liang and the others realized that she had actually bought servants. They had not heard anything for the past 2 days. She was too low-key. Looking at how energetic these people were, she must have spent a lot of money. The Gu family was really getting better. Gu Yundong quickly roasted the meat she had prepared the day before and added her own condiments. In an instant, the fragrance filled the air. The children sniffed hard and looked at the food on the barbecue rack. Gu Yundong tried the raw deer meat. Yes, it was tender. She roasted a few more skewers and moved aside to let the others do it while she chatted with Qin Liang. Only then did Qin Liang know that the Gu family's business was actually working with Shao Qingyuan. Actually, this was good too. Qin Liang had a good impression of Shao Qingyuan and was not as afraid as the people in the village. This meal of roasted meat lasted until the sky darkened before everyone dispersed reluctantly. The Tong family swiftly packed up their things. Gu Yundong stood in the courtyard and looked at the new house. He smiled exceptionally happily. They could stay in the new house today. Not only her, but Madame Yang and the 2 little ones were also jumping around happily. They lay on the bed and could not fall asleep. It'll be good if we can find father. Gu Yunshu sighed faintly. He was the one who missed Gu Dajiang the most. Whenever there was a joyous occasion at home, he hoped that Gu Dajiang would be there too. It would be perfect if the family could reunite. Gu Yundong patted his head. We will find him. After chatting for a while, Gu Yundong let the 3 of them sleep. Then, under Madame Yang's eager gaze, she decisively went to the room next door to sleep. She slept so comfortably in the new house that the entire family woke up late the next day. Gu Yundong sat up in a daze, vaguely thinking that she had forgotten something. Chapter 201. Role Model. It was not until Madame Dong came over and handed her the school bag that she suddenly woke up. Yes, she had to send Yunshu to school today. Gu Yundong cursed in her heart. She thanked Madame Dong and ran to Madame Yang's room with the school bag. Madame Yang had already woken up. She had developed a biological clock. Although she slept especially comfortably today, she did not wake up much later. The 2 little ones were sleeping messily on the bed. She searched for a long time before she found Yunshu's head on the other side. She took the opportunity to dig Young's head out of the blanket to prevent her from suffocating. Yunshu, wake up, wake up. She pinched the little fellow's nose. The latter closed his eyes and immediately opened his mouth to breathe. Gu Yundong, let's see how capable you are. She simply carried him out from under the blanket. Gu Yunshu shivered and woke up. Eldest sister? Get up and get dressed. They'll send you to school. School? He tilted his head, still not understanding. It was only when Gu Yundong brought his clothes over that he suddenly remembered. He quickly stood up and got off the bed. He ran to the wardrobe and rummaged for a long time before taking out the new clothes that Madame Dong had made for him. I want to wear this. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Seeing that he was shaking his head happily, she could only put the clothes in her hands back. Gu Yunshu quickly packed up and carried the novel and strange little bag on his back. He took the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone that he had bought long ago and hurriedly got into the carriage. Gu Yundong brought him there, and Father Tong drove the carriage. She might be very busy in the future, so Father Tong was responsible for taking Yunshu. The school's gatekeeper already knew her and sent them in enthusiastically. When she saw Qin Wenjing, Gu Yundong was a little surprised. What was wrong with Mr. Qin? He looked very haggard. However, Qin Wenjing sneered. He saw through her thoughts at a glance. If not for you, would I be so busy? She didn't even think about why no one had come to Yongfu village in the past few days. Didn't she know how big the commotion in Jinshu restaurant that day was? It was all because he had helped her block it. If she really had a conscience, she should have expressed it. Just as this thought came to his mind, Gu Yundong handed him a bag of things with a serious expression. I know that the last time Master Qin sent all the sugar away, you didn't keep any for yourself. This is for Madame and Anning to try. Please accept it. Qin Wenjing coughed lightly. Your relationship with Madame is quite good. With that, he took the sugar without hesitation and led Gu Yunshu in. Gu Yundong stood on the spot and looked at his back. She sighed in her heart, what a role model. After settling the matter of Gu Yunshu going to school, she returned to the village. She had to recruit people and start working. The carriage drove all the way into Yongfu village. Just as it reached the entrance of the village, they saw Zhao Dafa. Zhao Dafa also saw her, and his expression changed slightly. He turned around and ran. Gu Yundong narrowed her eyes. If he hid when he saw her, what else could it be but that he had done something bad? She picked up something beside her and threw it at him. Zhao Dafa exclaimed and stopped in his tracks. Gu Yundong jumped down from the carriage. Father Tong, who was driving the carriage, blocked Zhao Dafa's way first. He had no way to retreat. He could only turn around and look at Gu Yundong with a dry smile. Did you do something to me? Gu Yundong sized him up. Otherwise, why would you run away for no reason? Chapter 202, Recruitment. Zhao Dafa shuddered and hurriedly explained, I didn't do anything. I don't really believe it. Really, I swear. Zhao Dafa was about to cry. That woman from the Qin family asked me to visit your house more often. I didn't agree. I rejected her. I didn't think of stealing. I'm different from a hooligan like Hu Liang. You can't hit me. Zhao Dafa was really afraid of Gu Yundong. Not only did he see how Gu Yundong dealt with Hu Liang and the others, but he also saw the scene of Hu Liang's legs being broken. He remembered that because Hu Liang had scolded Gu Yundong a few more times, he had been tortured to death by the Peng family servants. That day, when he was in the county city, he saw it with his own eyes. When he returned, he had a nightmare. When he met the Gu family, he avoided them. Zhao Dafa was certain that Gu Yundong was definitely related to the Peng family and was not someone he could offend. Gu Yundong could roughly tell from his words that Madame Fang and her daughter did want Zhao Dafa to cause trouble for her family, but Zhao Dafa was afraid of her and rejected them. It was not difficult to understand what Zhuangzi had said about the two of them quarreling. She had heard before that people who hit their wife and children at home were usually cowards outside. They bullied the weak and feared the strong. Zhao Dafa was one of them. Can I leave now? Zhao Dafa asked in a low voice. Gu Yundong looked at him and did not know what to say. He nodded and ignored him. He got back into the carriage. She was very busy. When she got back, she started recruiting people to prepare sugar. She had also chosen a temporary address. Chen Liang had helped her find it. It was a family with the surname Lu in the village. That family was a young couple who lived with their father. There was a huge courtyard at home. It was said that it had been used to raise chickens a long time ago. However, a few years ago, there was a chicken plague and more than half of the chickens died. Not only did the Lu family suffer a huge loss, but they also owed an external debt. Last year, they had just paid off all their debt before their son married a wife. When they heard that the Gu family wanted to rent their courtyard, the three of them agreed. Due to the size of the courtyard and the noise of sugar making, Gu Yundong's rent was 800 copper coins a month. She had a place, but she was short of manpower. Gu Yundong began to recruit openly. At first, she considered the people who had built a house for her family. However, these people weren't free now and followed Feng Danning everywhere. Chen Liang was enthusiastic and helped her pass the message yesterday. Therefore, when Gu Yundong returned home from the county city, there were many people gathered at the entrance of the Gu residence. Not only were there people from the village, but there were also many people from the neighboring village. Upon seeing her return, all of them rushed forward and asked, Yundong, is your family really going to hire someone to help with the work? How much is the salary? Yundong, are you really going to build a workshop? Yundong, what do you think of me? I'm very strong. I can do anything you want me to. Yundong. Gu Yundong was surrounded and almost pushed through the door. All of them were calling her so affectionately. They had clearly not spoken before. She coughed lightly and stood on the steps. Everyone listen to me. I do want to set up a sugar workshop, but the workshop can only be built after spring. At the moment, I can only borrow the Liu family's courtyard to use for the time being, so I won't hire many people. About 10 people will be enough. The salary will be set at 500 copper coins a month. If you do your job well, it will naturally be increased. 500 copper coins was a lot. Of course, the workers have to be diligent when I hire people and, Miss Gu, what do you think of me? I'm very efficient. Gu Yundong was interrupted before she could finish speaking. She frowned slightly and looked at the person who spoke. She did not recognize him. He did not seem to be from the village. However, Dong Xiaolin's expression instantly turned ugly when she saw this person. Chapter 203. From Yongfu village. Gu Yundong ignored the person and continued, "There's one more thing that I have to say in advance. Because there are not many people to hire, we will choose from the locals of Yongfu village first. But don't worry, in the future, the workshop. I'm from Yongfu village. Choose me, the person shouted again. Gu Yundong was not very patient to begin with. Moreover, this person had interrupted her again and again. She shot a cold gaze at the woman who had spoken. She looked young, about 17 or 18 years old, but she was dressed like a woman. She must have married. Even if you're from Yongfu village, I won't choose you. The person was still smiling, but when she heard this, she was stunned for a moment. Her face immediately turned stiff. Why don't you choose me? Why not? I'm agile and diligent. Didn't you say your request just now? Isn't it just right for me? Madame Dong snorted coldly and said, How are you good? You're already married. You can't be considered a member of Yongfu village. The other villagers knew that there were few spots, so they naturally agreed. That's right. You've already married into the Liang family village. How can you still have the face to come to Yongfu village and say that you meet the request? Li Xiangquan, don't come here to join in the fun. Hurry up and go home to nurse the children. Let's go. Don't block us. Yundong hasn't even finished speaking and she's already shouting nonstop. Does she know the rules? Li Xiangquan almost stomped her feet. She glared at the people who spoke and shouted, Even if I am married, she's still from Yongfu village. I'm not leaving. I want to work in her workshop. Then she looked at Gu Yundong. When will your workshop start working? I'll be the first to go. Gu Yundong was so angry that she laughed. So this woman was married. No wonder this woman thought she was easy to bully because she was young and thin-skinned. Didn't you hear what I said? I don't choose you. You can get lost now. Li Xiangquan widened her eyes. Girl, how can you say that? Who are you telling to get lost? You're just a little girl who has just come to Yongfu village. Why are you so insensible? Gu Yundong completely lost his patience and said to Tong Shuitao, Throw her away. Tong Shuitao was already itching to give it a try. One look at this woman and one would be displeased. She was the one who was insensible. When the young miss spoke, she would always interrupt her, and her voice was especially loud. She walked towards Li Xiangquan. The latter did not take the soft and weak Tong Shuitao seriously at all. She sneered and did not move. It was only when Tong Shuitao grabbed her waist and dragged her out that everyone suddenly gasped. Li Xiangquan was not thin at all, especially after giving birth. She had never lost weight, not to mention that she was taller and stronger than that girl. But now, she was easily dragged away. Li Xiangquan widened her eyes and panted. She hurriedly shouted to the side, Are you dead? Can't you see that your wife has been bullied? A lean man at the side immediately rushed out. He did not even look at Tong Shuitao. Instead, he shouted at Gu Yundong, Tell her to let him go, do you hear me? Otherwise what? A cold voice came from behind him. This voice was very familiar, so familiar that the man felt a chill run down his spine and almost jumped up. Li Xiangquan was also stunned when she saw who it was. Chapter 204. All afraid of Shao Qingyuan. Shao Qingyuan asked again, Otherwise what? The man slowly turned his head away and his face instantly turned pale. He could not speak for a long time. He stammered for a long time but could not express himself clearly. Shao Qingyuan's face was cold as he looked at Li Xiangchuan. "Who asked you to come here?" Li Xiangchuan was a little braver than her man, but not by much. She said softly, I came to the workshop to work." "No need. Get lost." Li Xiangchuan shrunk her neck and tried her best to defend herself. "This isn't your workshop. If you say you don't need me, then I'm not needed? This is my workshop." Shao Qingyuan stared at her and said word by word. Li Ziyankin's eyes widened, and so did the others present. Then, they all turned to look at Gu Yundong. The latter shrugged. "Yes, this workshop is indeed a collaboration between Shao Qingyuan and me. He introduced me to young Master Lu and made a guarantee so that young Master Lu would lend me money. That was why I opened the workshop, so this workshop is half Shao Qingyuan's." This was what they had discussed in private. After all, this was easy to accept. If everyone knew that Shao Qingyuan had actually saved a few hundred taels of silver, who knew how much trouble he would cause? Therefore, they might as well borrow Lu Wei's name and use it. Perhaps it could even serve as a deterrent. As expected, when she said this, the villagers' gazes became complicated. However, for some reason, a few people quietly retreated. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. "Oh my, so Shao Qingyuan had such an effect?" When Li Xiangchuan and her husband heard this, they turned around and left, not daring to say anything about going to the workshop to work. The originally noisy crowd also began to discuss softly. Then a large group of people left. There was no need for Gu Yundong to emphasize the recruitment conditions. Shao Qingyuan was like a stabilizing force. He stood there, and many people who were originally scheming left. The rest were villagers whose families were really in trouble and needed this job, as well as people who didn't have any conflicts with Shao Qingyuan and didn't feel guilty or afraid. But there were still too many people, so Gu Yundong could only choose a few. In the end, 8 men and 3 women were left behind. They were all in their prime. Including Dong Xiulan, the Lu family of 3, and the village chief's second son, Chen Jinbao, there were a total of 16 people. After confirming the candidates, Gu Yundong took out a contract and read the terms to them. If there were no objections, they would press their thumbprints and start work in 2 days. Only one woman objected and did not sign the contract. Gu Yundong did not force her. The 16 people became 15. Gu Yundong explained the things to take note of and also said that this was a short-term job that would only last for 4 to 5 months. However, if it was suitable, the work would continue next year. When the workshop was built, it would be even more standardized. Short-term work could also become longer. No one had any objections when they heard that. At this time, there was no farming to do, and it was difficult to find things to do outside. They sat at home all day and ate food without work. They were also anxious. Not to mention that the Gu family paid them a lot of money and the work was not heavy. When the 16 of them went home, their families were happy. They all urged them to do their best and strive to stay after the workshop was built next year. After everyone left, Gu Yundong put away the contract. He then had the time to ask Shao Qingyuan, "Who is Li Xiangchuan?" Chapter 205. She's from the Li family. Shao Qingyuan's expression was cold. Someone from the Li family. Gu Yundong did not understand at first. After a while, he reacted. The Li family? Wasn't it the family that adopted Shao Qingyuan? This shameless person actually dared to come over even though she knew that Shao Qingyuan lived nearby. After Shao Qingyuan left, Madame Dong said to her that Li Xiangchuan is only a year younger than Qingyuan. She has been domineering since she was young. When Qingyuan was young, she bullied him countless times. Later on, she got married and even came back every other day to cause trouble for Qingyuan. It was only when old Master Li passed away and Qingyuan stopped indulging them that the Li family stopped. What she didn't say was that half of Li Ziyankin's man's hair had been cut off by Shao Qingyuan. He was so frightened that he peed his pants. He had not been to Yongfu village for more than half a year. They did not expect him to appear again today. He deserved to be taught another lesson. After Madame Dong finished speaking, she glanced at Gu Yundong's expression and sighed softly. Qingyuan is actually quite a good person. As long as you don't anger him, he won't teach you a lesson. Look at those people who are so afraid of him. Which one of them doesn't deserve it? Our family has been his neighbor for so long. If we really need his help, he will come immediately without a word. Don't think that he hasn't married yet. That's because others have ruined his reputation and don't understand his character. Otherwise, with his appearance and ability, the number of girls who want to marry him can line up from our village to the town. Ahem, a light cough sounded at the door. Dong Xiulan looked up and saw that Shao Qingyuan had returned. She quickly stood up. There's still soup stewing in the pot over there. I'll go take a look. With that, she slipped away. Gu Yundong also stood up. I'll go and see how the Lu family's courtyard is cleaned up. She slipped past him and ran away. Shao Qingyuan stood on the spot and thought about her slightly evasive gaze. Was she shy? He lowered his eyes and smiled. In the following days, Gu Yundong was exceptionally busy. The Lu family's courtyard had been tidied up, and all the necessary tools were available. The hired people also began to work. Shao Qingyuan and Chen Hongyi were the ones who went to buy the sugarcane. They had already visited all the nearby villages, so they went further away. The Lu family made black sugar. After that, Gu Yundong brought it back and processed it into white sugar in her courtyard. The 6 members of the Tong family were all helping. Gu Yundong had also raised their monthly allowance. She had told the Tong family in advance that the production of white sugar was an order from the emperor of the capital. If anyone leaked the formula, their entire family would be executed. The Tong family was honest to begin with. When they heard this, they did their best and controlled the process tightly. The sugar production went on in an orderly manner. When it was almost done, Gu Yundong began to plan to open the shop. After checking the calendar, the nearest good day was 2 days before the Laba festival. Gu Yundong took a look. Wasn't this perfect? They could cook Laba porridge when they went home after buying sugar. Hence, she set the date to the 6th of December and asked Lu Wei to help promote it. Lu Wei was not afraid of publicity. It did not take long for everyone in his circle to know. Although the price of white sugar was not too ridiculous, it was still expensive to ordinary people. Therefore, the target customers were basically those rich families. On the 6th day of December, Gu Yundong put on her new clothes early in the morning. She got into the carriage and went straight to the county. Chapter 206. The family goes to the county city. Gu Yundong also applied for leave for Gu Yunshu. Father Tong and his wife were the only ones guarding the Tong family. Everyone else went to the county to open for business. Dong Xiulan also brought the children over. Her husband asked Father Tong to help take care of them for the time being. Gu Yundong's carriage was not big enough. Fortunately, Lu En came to pick her up early. He looked much more excited than her. He only turned the carriage around and brought Shao Qingyuan to pick Lu Wei up after sending her to the entrance of the shop. The Gu family's shop was in the east of the city. It was called Gus and the name was given by Shao Qingyuan. When Gu Yundong went to discuss it with him, he almost blurted it out. The street in the east of the city was considered the most prosperous and lively commercial street in Fengkai County. There were pharmaceutical shops, butcher shops, grocery stores, satin sellers and restaurants everywhere. In the middle, it was originally the Tao family's wine shop. Some time ago, it suddenly closed and was renovated. The surrounding shops did not know what it looked like. Gu Yundong had personally designed the interior of Gus. There was a long wooden board hanging on the right side of the door. On it was written the goods for sale. The first line was white sugar, followed by brown sugar, orange sugar, and pear sugar. There were not many types. At the moment, Gu Yundong could only buy these few things. He would take his time. After entering, there was a round table that could be rotated. The table was tied with clean straw, a few candied haws, and lollipops. Next to it was a counter. This counter was different from other shops. It was beige in color and had a round arc. It was carved with patterns and looked much brighter. There were all kinds of cabinets around the shop. There was a wooden sign hanging on each of them, indicating the name and price. She even divided the first-grade white sugar and the second-grade white sugar. After all, the Tong family had just started making them. There would always be some faulty products when they were not familiar with them. Actually, it did not affect them much. It was just that they were not that white. This kind could be sold at a lower price. The backyard of the shop had also been tidied up. Gu Yundong and the others had arrived early and the shop wouldn't be open until a particular time, so they went to the backyard together. Dong Xiulan said enviously, "Yundong is so capable. She even has such a big house and shop in the county. You'll have it sooner or later." Gu Yundong poured a glass of water. The last time Uncle Zeng came back from the county, didn't the doctor say that he would slowly recover after recuperating for a while? By then, Aunt's life will be better. Besides, Zeng Jia, Zeng Yu, and Zeng Lu are so sensible. Your good days will come later. Some time ago, Shao Qingyuan took Uncle Zeng to the best medical center in the county to see a doctor. Perhaps because he had eaten well recently and was in a good mood, Zeng Hu's condition was very optimistic. Now that Dong Xiulan was working in the workshop and the 3 children had helped a lot, and Gu Yundong would pay her, the Zeng family was indeed prospering. Dong Xiulan's smile widened. She was very grateful to Gu Yundong. If not for her, their family might have really declined. She was a woman with 3 children and had to take care of her man. Not only was she tired, but her man was also very depressed during that period of time. He almost gave up on himself and felt that he was a burden to them. Shao Qingyuan happened to be in the prefectural city at that time. He didn't know the situation even if he wanted to help. Now, everything would really be fine. Just as they were talking, the sound of banging came from outside the door. The people in the courtyard were stunned and ran out. Chapter 207. Opening Dai. As soon as the door opened, she saw a huge lion head rushing towards her. Gu Yundong immediately took a step back and subconsciously wanted to raise her leg to kick it. The lion head began to turn to the side again, and the lion tail jumped around. This one was not enough. Soon, another lion also jumped up. The second lion was obviously more professional than the first. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She swore that she had never thought of calling the dragon and lion dancers over. It turned out that the banging was their gongs and drums. Just as she was thinking about it, the first lion's head was removed, revealing Lu Wei's somewhat silly face. "How is it? This opening is lively, right?" It attracted everyone. He wiped the sweat off his face and suddenly shouted at the lion behind him, "Shao Qing, come here." The lion behind also removed its head. Shao Qingyuan glared at Lu Wei with a cold expression. Gu Yundong was originally speechless, but when she saw Shao Qingyuan's attire, she could not help but laugh. "I was wondering why you left with Luan. So you prepared such a surprise. Haha, this suits you very well. Really, you're especially handsome. You were even better than Lu Wei in lion dance just now." Shao Qingyuan was originally unhappy. He was completely forced to come by Lu Wei. But now, seeing her smile so brightly, he suddenly felt that it was just a lion dance. It was not a big deal. However, Lu Wei was a little dissatisfied. What did she mean by better than him? He had specially trained for a day. No, half a day. He should be better than Shao Qingyuan, who had been pulled over at the last minute. However, before he could retort, a commotion suddenly sounded from behind. "Manager Gu, congratulations on opening the business." Tao Feng was the one who spoke. He led his servants over and even brought gifts. Gu Yundong did not know him, but Lu Wei snorted coldly. However, he did not say anything and only told her in a low voice, "This is Tao Xing's elder brother, Tao Feng. However, the 2 of them do not have the same mother. He has no feud with me." Gu Yundong was enlightened. Since the visitor was a guest, Gu Yundong naturally welcomed him. "Young Master Tao, you're too kind. Please come in." Then, she asked the second son of the Tong family to serve tea. As soon as he entered, many more people came one after another. They were all young masters who had participated in the bet in Jinshu restaurant that day. Gu Yundong only recognized the young master of the county magistrate's family. The others were unfamiliar, but she welcomed them indirectly. There were a lot of people. Although the shop was big, There were very few tables and chairs. Gu Yundong could only ask Shao Qingyuan to borrow stools next door. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she found Shao Qingyuan looking at Tao Feng. She pursed her lips slightly and recalled that last time at Jinshu restaurant, he had also stared at the Tao family for a long time. Gu Yundong did not understand. Did Shao Qingyuan have any conflict with the Tao family? It didn't look like it. If there was, the Tao family wouldn't be so calm when they saw Shao Qingyuan, right? Just as she was thinking about it, Peng Zhongfei came over. Not only did he come, but he also brought his wife in. However, the expression on his face was a little impatient. It was obvious that he did not want to bring his wife. However, in the next moment when he looked up and saw Gu Yundong, his expression instantly became bright. There was even a hint of flattery in his smile. Seeing this, Madame Peng's face suddenly darkened. She tightened her grip on the handkerchief in her hands and secretly tore it. Gu Yundong was speechless. Was he trying to attract haters for her? Chapter 208, Madame Yao misses. Peng's surname was Yao. The nanny beside her was Nanny Qian, who had come to deliver the congratulatory gift when the Gu family set up the beam. Nanny Qian smiled and introduced, "Miss Gu, this is my young madam." Gu Yundong nodded at Madame Yao. Madame Yao was sizing her up, but she had a smile on her face and looked very friendly. "Miss Gu, congratulations. I heard that your sugar is unique in Fengkai County. My master saw it last time at Jinshu restaurant. When he came back, he praised it so much that I was curious and couldn't wait to see it. Look, I shamelessly followed my master here. Don't take it to heart." Gu Yundong also laughed. "Madame Peng, you must be joking. It's not that exaggerated. Let's go to the backyard and drink a cup of white sugar water. It tastes good." "Okay." Madame Yao asked Nanny Qian to deliver the gift and nodded with a smile. Peng Zhongfei was not the only one who brought his wife here today. Gu Yundong had asked Dong Xiulan to invite the others to the backyard for tea. Since Madame Yao was here, Gu Yundong naturally led her to the back. Dong Xiulan was a countryside woman. How could she have interacted with the wives of these wealthy families? She had always been worried. Fortunately, she had the wife of the eldest son of the Tong family, Madame Jiang. Madame Jiang had been a servant in a rich family before. Although she could not serve her master directly, she knew the rules of these families. Seeing that Dong Xiulan was uncomfortable, she whispered that she would serve tea and entertain her. Most of these madams knew each other and would find someone to chat with. Dong Xiulan nodded repeatedly. She didn't want to be in the middle of these people. However, she had promised to help Yundong today, so she was afraid that she would mess it up. When Gu Yundong led Madame Yao in, she saw Dong Xiulan sweating profusely and trembling with fear as she held the candied water. She immediately held her forehead. It was her fault for not thinking it through. It was embarrassing. Fortunately, Qin Wenzheng and his wife had arrived. Madame Gu had a good relationship with Gu Yundong and was Yunshu's master's wife. At this moment, she was naturally pulled over to help greet Madame Yao and the others. Gu Yundong chatted with her for a while before leaving. It was very lively outside. With Lu Wei and Shao Qingyuan around, there was actually not much of a problem. Many people were looking at the white sugar, and some were asking about the lollipop that was inserted in the middle of a straw and emitted the fragrance of fruit. Many shopkeepers next door saw so many rich young masters and young madams coming to support the new shop, so they came over to look curiously. After knowing what was sold in the shop, all of them widened their eyes and were eager to give it a try. However, when they heard the price, they were still a little afraid. This candy was good, but 100 copper coins per tael was really unbearable. However, Gu Yundong was not worried about the customers at all. After the opening, her sugar would be sold like crazy. "I want 50 pounds. I want 100 pounds. I don't want much. 20 caddies is enough." Gu Yundong looked at the people who rushed to the counter with silver in their hands and asked their servants to block the counter with white sugar, as if they were afraid that the sugar would be snatched away. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. "It's my humble shop's honor to have all of you here today. However, there's a limited number of goods, so each customer can only buy 5 caddies at most. They'll pay more, someone said. Gu Yundong shook her head. Only 5 caddies. In such a short period of time, the amount of white sugar she could produce was limited. How could she sell dozens of caddies? Everyone was extremely disappointed. In the end, they could only carry a small cloth bag out. Peng Zhongfei also bought 5 caddies, but he left after throwing down 20 taels of silver. Madame Yao saw his actions clearly and her eyes could not help but darken. Chapter 209. Call Gu Xian'er over. Peng Zhongfei happily got into the carriage with 5 caddies of white sugar. He didn't even care about Madame Yao's expression. Nanny Qian carefully helped her into the car and advised in a low voice, "Young madam, don't think too much. Young master might just like this white sugar. He'll naturally be happy if he can buy it." Madame Yao snorted and closed her eyes to rest after getting into the carriage. She thought of Gu Yundong, a woman who was full of vitality, capable and beautiful. However, she wasn't master's type. She hadn't fully matured yet, and master liked someone like concubine Xia. Yes, she was not master's type. Madame Yao thought about it and heaved a sigh of relief. Peng Zhongfei's voice sounded in her ear. "This candy is too little. I'll ask the Gu family's girl later if she can give us more." No matter what, they had a little friendship, right? She looks better than last time. Madame Yao suddenly opened her eyes. "Master, do you think Miss Gu is quite good-looking?" "Yes," Peng Zhongfei said without looking up. He had only seen her 3 times. The first time, she was a country girl who was dressed in rustic clothes and had a shriveled body. The second time, in Jinshu restaurant, her expression was much better. She looked energetic, but she looked petty in front of a large group of glamorous young masters. However, looking at her today, if one did not look at her young face, she would look like the wife of a rich family, except for her figure, which was still unattractive. Indeed, it must be because someone was secretly protecting her. Otherwise, how could she have achieved so much in such a short period of time? Madame Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. Nanny Qian, who was beside her, quickly tugged at her. "How did you know Manager Gu?" Madame Yao secretly took a deep breath and asked softly. "Her family." Peng Zhongfei suddenly stopped talking. He couldn't say it. That matter couldn't be leaked. He finally raised his head and glanced at Madame Yao. "Why are you asking this?" "I'm just curious. Shopkeeper Gu doesn't look very old. I heard that she just came here as a refugee. Why does it seem like Master is very familiar with her? Last time, you even asked me to prepare a gift for her house completion celebration. I was just thinking that now that Shopkeeper Gu has opened a shop in the county city, there will be more opportunities to visit her in the future." Peng Zhongfei waved his hand. "Indeed. In the future, take care of her business more and take care of her more. I gave them more money today. They should be happy, right?" He was referring to the non-existent old man, but it sounded to Madame Yao that Peng Zhongfei was trying to please Gu Yundong. Madame Yao could only laugh dryly and could not continue the conversation. Master did not intend to talk about how he and Gu Yundong met. It seemed that there was more to this than met the eye. Nanny Qian lowered her head at the side and became even more frightened when she heard young Master's words. When they arrived at the Peng residence, Peng Zhongfei carried the bag of white sugar and left. Nanny Qian trembled as she helped Madame Yao back to the Rui garden. As soon as they entered the house, Madame Yao sneered. "You're really capable." Nanny Qian knew who she was talking about. She lowered her head slightly and said, "Young madam, perhaps that's not what young master meant. That girl can't meet young master's requirements at all." "Doesn't that mean that she's capable?" After Madame Yao walked around the house twice, she suddenly said to Nanny Qian, "Go and call that Gu Xian'er over." "Yes," Nanny Qian quickly replied and left. Chapter 210. Don't like that ever since Gu Xian'er returned from the Gu family, she had been promoted as a second-class maid. She guessed that it was probably because Nanny Qian had told her about her relationship with Gu Yundong that young madam had such intentions. Perhaps she wanted her to help do something. However, young madam did not see her much after that. This made Gu Xian'er feel a little conflicted. Fortunately, as a second-class maid, her work became much easier. Her monthly salary was also raised, and she even had the time to dress up. She even understood a lot of things in the Peng residence. For example, young madam was a jealous and scheming person, and concubine Xia was favored. Young master liked women with curves. Be it concubines or servant girls, they were all this type. Unexpectedly, Nanny Qian came over today to say that young madam was looking for her. Gu Xian'er tidied her clothes and hair before following Nanny Qian to the Rui garden obediently. There was no one else in Madame Yao's house other than her. When she saw Gu Xian'er, she looked up slightly. "Have a seat." Gu Xian'er was flattered and carefully sat down on a chair at the side. A trace of disdain flashed across Madame Yao's eyes. She took a sip of tea and asked, "I heard that you and that girl called Gu Yundong are cousins?" "Yes, young madam. Gu Yundong is indeed my cousin. It's just that," she hesitated, "she doesn't have a good relationship with me." "Then how well do you know her? Do you think the young master will like her?" Gu Xian'er was stunned. For some reason she felt excited. However, she still looked like she was thinking carefully. After a moment, she said uncertainly, "I don't think so. Young madam, my cousin used to be very weak. I don't know what happened on her way to escape. She has changed a lot." "Oh, what's changed?" "It's just that she's bold. In the past, she cried at the drop of a hat and didn't like to go out. But that day, when I saw her in Yongfu village, I felt that she wasn't messy at all. She talked to people in a very organized way and didn't look like a country girl at all. I don't know if someone taught her." She frowned in thought and answered as if she was not scheming at all. However, Madame Yao narrowed her eyes slightly. "Did someone teach her? Then why do you think that young master won't like her?" Gu Xian'er touched her head and said softly, "I just think that she looks average. Be it her temperament or appearance, she's far inferior to madam. Young master would never like her. Moreover, if young master really likes her, why didn't he just take her as a concubine instead of letting her hang out with other men in that countryside?" "Is that so?" "Yes, so young madam doesn't need to care about her at all." Madame Yao chuckled softly and rubbed the lid of the cup with her fingers. "But why do I feel that master seems to think highly of her?" "Well," Gu Xian'er thought for a moment and said, "Perhaps something happened between the two of them? Perhaps my cousin helped young master before? That's why young master looks at her differently. It might not be a romantic relationship. Otherwise, my cousin, who has been working so hard with her silly mother and young siblings, would have hurried into the manor to enjoy life after meeting someone like young master, right?" Madame Yao nodded. "What you said makes sense. Actually, it's very simple if you want to know what's going on between the two of them," Gu Xian'er said softly. "Tell me." Chapter 211. How much did you earn? Gu Xian'er said, "Young madam, you can invite my cousin to the residence and ask her personally. Will she answer honestly? Young madam, you're extremely smart. Regardless of whether she answers honestly or not, you will definitely get an answer." Madame Yao took a sip of tea and looked at Gu Xian'er with a faint smile. After a while, she nodded. "That makes sense. All right, I understand. You can leave." "Yes, I'll take my leave." Gu Xian'er went down. When she walked out of the Rui garden, she couldn't control the excitement on her face. "Gu Yundong, oh Gu Yundong, this is the price you have to pay for not helping me." As soon as she left, Nanny Qian approached Madame Yao and whispered, "Young madam, this Gu Xian'er simply wants to use you to deal with that girl from the Gu family." After learning a few idioms, she actually tried to flatter her master. "Of course I know. She thinks she's so smart, but she only knows how to play tricks. She's just a clown." Madame Yao sneered and looked down on Gu Xian'er. "However, I do want to invite shopkeeper Gu to the residence as a guest." "Young madam," Madame Yao waved her hand. "Gu Xian'er is right. No matter what relationship shopkeeper Gu has with master, I will see something. Besides, I'll only invite her over as a guest and chat with her. As for the rest, isn't Gu Xian'er around? Let them fight. Nanny Chen beamed. Young madam is still the smartest. Alright, it's the Laba festival in 2 days. Send the Laba porridge to the Gu family and invite her over as a guest. Yes. Gu Yundong did not know that she had been targeted again. After opening the shop for a day, the white sugar was snatched up in the morning. The other sweets were almost gone. It was only halfway through the afternoon when she closed the door. At noon, Dong Xiulan brought the 3 children back to Yongfu village with Luan. She was thinking about the work at the workshop. Although Gu Yundong said that he would still give her a salary for the entire day, Dong Xiulan felt that she could not help with the shop in the afternoon. It was not good to take the salary for the entire day, so she insisted on going back to work. She went back, but Lu Wei didn't leave. Seeing that the shop was closed, he hurriedly came over. Quick, take a look at how much money we earned today. Gu Yundong glanced at him. You're an outsider. Why should I count the money in front of you? Lu Wei was speechless. Friendship over, friendship over. He turned around angrily and left. After taking 2 steps, he came back unwillingly. He glared and said, even if you didn't say it, I could have deduced it. How many caddies of sugar did she sell today and how many candies did she sell? Did she think he was blind? Gu Yundong gave him a thumbs up. Not bad. I thought you were just bragging to others. Turns out you know what you're doing. Lu Wei raised his eyebrows. After all, I'm the young master of the Lu family. Alright, hurry up and count. In fact, Gu Yundong already had an idea. After all, the price of white sugar was set there. In addition, almost everyone had 5 caddies today. She even saw some people buy another 5 caddies after buying 5 caddies. There were also many people who bought second-rate sweets. The shopkeepers next door thought that white sugar was too expensive. In addition, those rich young masters had it, so they simply bought second-rate sweets to try. Gu Yundong took out the money box and saw that it was filled with banknotes and silver pieces. She slowly took a deep breath. Two taels of silver is not even a fraction. Forget it, 1 tael is fine. Shao Qingyuan ignored him. He turned to Gu Yundong and said, but the shop is indeed short of a shopkeeper and clerks. We can't let you look after the shop every day. Unfortunately, my father isn't around. Gu Dajiang had once been an accountant in a restaurant and had some experience. He was actually the most suitable candidate. Lu Wei stomped his feet at the side. I already said that I'll be the shopkeeper. Shao Qingyan thought for a moment and said, I have a suitable candidate. Gu Yundong's eyes lit up. Who? Me? Lu Wei shouted, you'll regret it if you don't invite me. I have a lot of connections in this county. Shao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong looked at each other and gave the Tong brothers a look at the same time. The two of them quickly dragged Lu Wei away. Chapter 213. Only then did the two of them calm down. Shao Qingyuan said, I used to work for an escort agency in town. He had no land in Yongfu village. Other than hunting in the mountains, he went to the county city or prefectural city to do short-term work. That escort agency was not big, and the escorts were only short distance. Most of them were between the prefectural city and the county city. The furthest was between the 2 neighboring prefectural cities. Shao Qingyuan was quite skilled. The head of the escort company really wanted him to stay in the escort company, but he didn't agree. However, he had also helped with 2 short-range escorts and everyone in the escort company knew him. Chief Escort has an elder brother. He used to be the shopkeeper of a large family in the prefectural city. Later on, that old master passed away. His 2 sons fought to the death. In the end, not only did the family collapse, but that shop was also sold. Uncle Zheng returned to the county city. He has nothing to do now. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes and thought for a while. Is this person reliable? Reliable, he replied without hesitation. Gu Yundong nodded. All right, if you say he's reliable, then he's reliable. Then it's him. Shao Qingyuan saw that she trusted him without hesitation, and his heart suddenly swelled. He secretly took a deep breath. They'll go find him now. Okay. It was still early, and the escort agency was not far from here. Shao Qingyuan returned not long after he left. Uncle Zheng was not very old. He looked to be in his 40s and looked very energetic. His family ran an escort agency, and it seemed that he had also practiced martial arts. This was even better. She wasn't afraid of people causing trouble. Zheng Gang had been a shopkeeper for more than 10 years and was a steady person. When he saw that his boss was a little girl in her teens, he was only surprised for a moment. He did not look down on her. Instead, he said with admiration, Qingyuan told me about it on the way. I really didn't expect such a rare thing to exist in this world. My boss is really capable. He paused for a moment and said, but you might not know that I used to be a shopkeeper in a cloth shop. The things I sold were different, and I might not be able to meet your requirements. If you're worried, you can let me try to be a shopkeeper for half a month first. If you're not satisfied, feel free to change me. Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. He knew about the probation period? It won't take half a month. 3 days will be enough. As the saying goes, 1 round is all it takes. Uncle Zheng used to be the shopkeeper of the cloth shop. In 3 days, you will definitely be proficient in being the shopkeeper of Gus. I will come to Gus for the next 3 days. If there's anything you need to know about the shop, you can just ask me. Zheng Gang smiled. The boss thinks highly of me. I, Zheng Gang, will definitely not let you down. As for the monthly salary, it's temporarily set at 5 taels of silver. If you do it well, I will increase it. She had some understanding. The prices and wages in the county city were not comparable to the prefectural city. Most of the shopkeepers here only had 3 to 4 taels of silver a month. Of course, a big restaurant like the Liu family's was different. However, if she did well, she would not treat the shopkeeper badly. Zheng Gang immediately nodded. All right. When he was a shopkeeper in the prefectural city, he only earned 5 taels a month. He had worked for many years before raising it by 2 taels. After agreeing on the time for work the next day, Zheng Gang went back. Now that the shopkeeper had been confirmed, she still needed a waiter. This waiter did not necessarily need to be experienced. With Zheng Gang leading him, it was not a big problem to help move the goods in the shop and entertain the customers. The most important thing was to be clever. At the mention of cleverness, a person flashed across Gu Yundong's mind. Chapter 214. Zhuangzi. Gu Yundong's mouth twitched at the thought of this person. However, after thinking about it, she still felt that he was the most suitable. Therefore, after returning to the village at night, she went straight to the Shi family. When the parents of the Shi family saw her coming, they were stunned for a moment, thinking that she was looking for them for the matter in the field. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong was looking for Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi had never been at home, especially recently. He often left after eating in the morning with a few steamed buns and only returned when it was dark. Shi Dashan asked a few times, but he couldn't get anything out of him, so he let him be. In any case, ever since he stopped hanging out with Hu Liang, there had been no rumors of him sneaking around. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. She could roughly guess where Zhuangzi had gone. However, before she could look for him, Lan Huar said, I know where my brother is. I'll go look for him. With that, Lan Huar ran off. Gu Yundong could only continue to wait at the Shi residence. Sure enough, not long after, Zhuangzi ran back while panting. Miss Gu, why are you looking for me? He had been working hard recently. Although Gu Yundong had not told him to keep an eye on Zhao Dafa, he felt that Madame Fang and Zhao Dafa must have something going on. He wanted to find out about their affair no matter what. Therefore, other than spying on Madame Fang and her daughter, he also had to visit Zhao Dafa from time to time. He was so busy that he didn't even have time to eat. But damn it, the two of them had only met once. He didn't know if it was because they had fallen out last time, but there had been no movement since then. Zhuangzi was very worried. If he had known, he would have called the entire village over the last time he saw them alone. He had missed an opportunity. Recently, he had been wondering if he should matchmake them and make them reconcile. Only then could he catch them in the act. Gu Yundong had no idea what he was thinking. She only felt that Zhuangzi seemed to have lost some weight and looked more haggard. It seemed that he was indeed very professional and did his best to do what she instructed him to do. She was relieved. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Just like this, Zhuangzi. I opened a shop in the county city and I want to find a smart shop assistant. Are you willing to go? What? Not only Zhuangzi, but the other 3 members of the Shi family widened their eyes. Especially Shi Dashan and his wife, their faces were filled with disbelief. They had never thought that their son, who was always away from home and hated by the entire village, would one day be personally invited to be a shop assistant. Zhuangzi was also stunned. He blinked and wondered if he had heard wrongly. I've been invited to work as a shop assistant? How could a rotten person like him, who couldn't even be a short-term worker when he went to town, become a shop assistant? For some reason he felt like crying. Zhuangzi turned around abruptly and wiped his face forcefully with his sleeve. Gu Yundong laughed. What's wrong? Are you unwilling? Yes, of course. Zhuangzi immediately turned around. His eyes were still a little red, but he hurriedly nodded. The Shi couple and Lan Huar nodded vigorously. He's willing. Well, the salary is 1 tael a month for the time being. If you do well, we will increase it. If you agree, you can follow me to the county tomorrow. There's a courtyard there that you can stay in. You can come back if you want. If it's too late and you're too tired, you can stay in the shop. Zhuangzi nodded vigorously. 1 tael of silver. He had heard that the shop assistants in the workshop only earned 500 copper coins. Actually, he also wanted to go to the workshop, but Gu Yundong wanted honest and reliable people. He admitted that he was not. Besides, he still had to keep an eye on Madame Feng and Zhao Dafa. At the thought of this, Zhuangzi suddenly reacted. Then Madame Feng. Chapter 215. 2 people he was most afraid of. Gu Yundong interrupted him. No need. You can come early tomorrow. He had been watching Madame Feng and her daughter for almost a month. Other than asking Zhao Dafa to steal from her house, there was nothing else. Now that her house was guarded by the Tong family, she was not afraid that Madame Feng would find someone to sneak into their house. Besides, there was no reason to guard against thieves for 1,000 days. Her initial thought was to keep an eye on them for a month. Zhuangzi immediately agreed. After Gu Yundong left, he reached out and slapped himself hard. Then he asked his parents, "Am I dreaming?" It's not a dream. You can really become a worker in the county city. Shi Dashan's honest face was filled with excitement. He patted his shoulder heavily with his rough palm. He also nodded repeatedly. Her son was finally promising. 1 tael of silver a month. Your father and I also have a salary every month now. Now that you have something serious to do, you can get married soon. In the past, her poor son did not have a good reputation. He idled around all day and the matchmakers would take a detour when they saw him. Now, she could even imagine the scene of her hugging her grandson in the near future. Zhuangzi took a deep breath and looked at his parents. He suddenly realized that they were different from before. That's right. Ever since they helped the Gu family manage the orchard, the 2 of them had been in high spirits and full of energy. Now that he had work to do, their lives would get better in the future. In the end, he looked at Lan Huar and saw that her face was red and excited. He immediately smiled. Wait for me to save up your dowry. The next day, Zhuangzi changed into his best set of clothes and waited at the entrance of the Gu residence before dawn. When Gu Yundong went out, she was almost shocked by the figure in the corner. She thought that Madame Feng had found someone to spy on her as soon as she asked Zhuangzi to come back. When she saw who it was, she wanted to kick him out. Zhuangzi chuckled. Miss Gu. No, boss, do we have to leave? Gu Yundong asked Gu Yunshu, who was also going to school, to get into the carriage before sizing him up. Then she frowned slightly. Although Zhuangzi was wearing the best clothes, there were still 2 patches on the corner of his shirt. This wouldn't do. The shop assistant was the face of the shop. If he wore patched clothes, others would think that she was abusing her employees and it would affect her reputation. It seemed that she had to think about the work clothes. She asked Zhuangzi to get into the carriage too. The latter shook his head and sat beside Father Tong. "I'll sit outside with the old man." Gu Yundong did not try to persuade him anymore. Then, Zhuangzi watched as Shao Qingyuan came out of the Shao family's house. When he saw him sitting on the shaft of the carriage, the guy naturally entered the carriage. Zhuangzi's eyes widened and he shuddered violently. No, he couldn't be afraid. What was there to be afraid of? He hadn't offended Shao Qingyuan. Right, I heard that the workshop is half Shao Qingyuan's, so he also has a share in this shop? Does that mean he's my boss too? The 2 people he was most afraid of were actually his bosses. How did he end up in such a situation? Why did he take things so hard? The carriage entered the county city. Gu Yundong first sent her brother to school, then went to the clothing store and asked Zhuangzi to choose suitable clothes. Zhuangzi was extremely excited. Gift? I can choose anything? Shao Qingyuan's cold gaze shot at him. Zhuangzi suddenly shivered and felt a chill on his neck, as if he would be separated from his head at any time. He moved to the side weakly. Chapter 216. Uninvited guest. Gu Yundong glared at him. Dream on. Do you want to choose silk? Just choose something that looks clean, neat, warm, and without patches. Zhuangzi nodded, but he was still very happy. At least he had new clothes to wear. Seeing that he had gone to choose, Gu Yundong said to Shao Qingyuan, "Help shopkeeper Zheng choose a set too. Since Zhuangzi has been given work clothes, it doesn't make sense that the shopkeeper doesn't have them. See which one is suitable." Work clothes? Shao Qingyuan's expression softened. Yes. Gu Yundong pointed at Zhuangzi. We can't let him wear those clothes to entertain the guests, right? Treat it as a benefit in our shop. Our shop? Shao Qingyuan's expression brightened. All right, I'll choose. The clothes given to the shopkeeper were definitely different from the shop assistants. Shao Qingyuan estimated Zheng Gang's figure and quickly chose a set for him. Zhuangzi returned very quickly. He was still a little apprehensive, but seeing that Gu Yundong had no objections and readily paid, he became happy again. When they arrived at the shop, Zheng Gang was already waiting there. Gu Yundong asked him to take Zhuangzi to tidy up the counter while she went to the backyard and opened one of the rooms. After a while, she let them in to move the inventory here. Actually, there was no stock at all. She had just taken it out of her spatial storage. There was no one guarding the shop. How could she dare to leave it here? In the future, she planned to send someone to deliver it every day, so her family might need to buy a mule cart. After arranging the goods, Gu Yundong opened the door. The guests outside the door had arrived early. How could 5 caddies of white sugar be enough yesterday? This morning, they had sent the servants to buy it. Even some of the owners in the surrounding shops wanted it. After all, Zheng Gang had many years of work experience. At first, he was not used to it, but after a while, he was at ease and quickly got to work. Zhuangzi was inexperienced, but he was indeed quite smart and full of energy. He worked very hard in his studies and welcomed people with a smile the entire day. Although the smile at the beginning made Gu Yundong feel that it was very wretched. In addition, with Shao Qingyuan holding the fort, the order was still very stable today. Gu Yundong knew that there would definitely be a lot of customers for white sugar during the first 3 days. Some people would repeatedly buy a few more kilograms, or give them away, or sell them in the prefectural city. Gu Yundong could not care less. The amount she produced was limited, and it was only a small matter. The imperial court was the main force, and they did not care about her small amount of candy. After a busy day, Gu Yundong was quite satisfied with Zheng Gang and Zhuangzi. However, during lunch, she saw Zhuangzi take out 2 hard and cold pancakes from his pocket and her eyebrows could not help but twitch. There was a kitchen in the backyard of the shop. Gu Yundong could just let them use it. Surprisingly, Zhuangzi actually knew how to cook. Although it was average, he would not starve to death. Gu Yundong thought for a moment and gave them an extra 500 copper coins to buy the ingredients and cook for themselves. It could be considered free lunch. 500 copper coins was completely enough. Zhuangzi was extremely excited, and so was Jing Gang. He had originally asked his wife to deliver lunch to him every day. The next day was the Laba festival. Gu Yundong asked the Tong family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to make a large pot of laba porridge for the holiday. She also planned to go to the shop and stay for half a day before coming back. Zheng Gang and Zhuangzi were basically fine. However, just as she was about to go home, an uninvited guest came to the shop. Gu Yundong also glanced at it, then retracted her gaze and went back with the invitation. Zhuangzi immediately went to find bowls and chopsticks to share with Zheng Gang. Yongfu village was very lively. The Laba festival was a day to worship ancestors and gods and pray for a bumper harvest and auspicious luck. Every family had more or less prepared laba porridge. Even if the ingredients were not rich, it had to be done. The workshop was not on holiday, but the laba porridge that Gu Yundong had asked the Tong family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law to cook in the morning was very sweet. She gave everyone in the workshop a big bowl to bring back. Everyone in the workshop looked at the full bowl of laba porridge and their smiles never faded. As expected, working in the Gu family's workshop was simply too good. After eating the porridge, they worked even harder. Gu Yundong had been busy for 2 days and had almost forgotten the date she had agreed on with Madame Yao. Chapter 218. Going to the Peng residence again this morning, Gu Yundong instructed Shao Qingyuan on some matters in his workshop and planned to go straight to the county city. Shao Qingyuan knew about Gu Xian'er's relationship with her and was worried. Gu Yundong laughed. "I'm not afraid of her. I'll deal with whatever comes my way. It's fine if she knows her place, but if she really dares to approach me, I can teach her how to behave." With that, she was about to leave with Gu Yunshu. Unexpectedly, this little fellow ran straight to the Zheng family. Not long after, he mysteriously carried a huge bag out and climbed into the carriage. Gu Yundong was surprised. "What are you bringing to school?" The kid blinked, as if wondering if he should tell her. Gu Yundong sighed. "You've grown up and have secrets with eldest sister. Sigh, I'm sad." With a whoosh, Gu Yunshu immediately tore open the bag and pushed it in front of her. Gu Yundong's heartbroken expression disappeared in a second. She lowered her head and picked up the wee school bag on the bag. She looked up at Gu Yunshu. The latter was still surprised by the speed at which his eldest sister's expression changed. He looked conflicted. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4? Are you very short of school bags? Gu Yunshu was taken aback and quickly shook her head. No. These are for the other classmates in my school." As he spoke, he covered his mouth and laughed. "On the first day I went to school, the other students liked my school bag very much and asked me who made it and wanted to buy it. I asked Aunt for help. A school bag costs 2 copper coins. I'll give Aunt 90 copper coins and I'll collect some intermediate fees. I have 40 copper coins now. In the future, when eldest sister doesn't have enough money, I'll give everything to you." Gu Yundong's eyes widened. F*ck, he actually knew how to do business at such a young age? He knew how to collect the intermediate fee and save money for her? How could there be such a sensible child? Gu Yundong rubbed his little head fiercely. Gu Yunshu shook his head and thought that she was angry. He quickly explained, "I told the teacher and he agreed. However, there are very few students in our school. Some students come from poor families, so they did not buy anything. These 4 people are very rich. One don't charge much. They also gave me the fabric themselves. Aunt was very happy. I told Aunt not to tell you." Gu Yundong carried the child over. "I'm not angry. I'm very happy with your actions. In the future, when you encounter such things, remember to tell the teacher in advance, okay?" The intermediate fee he charged was not high. Dong Xiulan could earn 360 copper coins from 4 school bags, which was also a help to her family. When Gu Yunshu heard what she said, he hurriedly nodded.